Hi, Tom. Hi, Trey. Trey, can you hear me? So, can you hear me?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Trey.
Hi there.
Can you turn on your camera for a second? I need to check that everything is like,
Sure,
okay.
sure.
Hi, Vanessa.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Okay, so I've made you guys, hi, Trey. I've made you guys co-hosts.
Great.
Please do not, so that would mean that it would have some, Trey, is there another Trey Hunt's trying to log in? Or is it just you? I think it's another, is there another Trey Hunt's trying to get in? Trey.
Yes, there is. So my computer internet connection tends to be a little weak, so I just wanted to also log in with my phone, so I can also speak into my phone and keep the camera on.
Okay, I'm doing that now. Okay. Hi, Harriet. Why,
Hello.
So Trey, let's try on your phone as well so that we can be sure that everything is fine. Hi, girl. How are you?
Let me check on my lighting. I'm realizing it's getting darker. Just give me a second.
So you're perfect. I don't know what you're looking for. You're mute.
Told me, no, I was looking for my vase. I found it. Great.
Okay, Trey, we're gonna keep your phone, right? But I'm gonna give co-host to your laptop. Is that okay?
Yes, I am.
Or would you rather I give co-host to your phone?
I'm speaking from my phone right now.
That is sounding funny. Let me give co-host to your phone because it started sounding weird.
Okay.
Let me give co-host to your phone. Yeah. So it's on your phone that you have access, but please do not let in people you don't know. Please, 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 please.
Okay.
Please.
Okay.
They just make everything difficult. If you don't know the name, don't add the person. Don't worry about it. There's someone doing it on the back end, on our side, so we know them. Sure.
Got it.
Okay. Harriet, you good?
Yes, I think this is better.
Lovely. Hi, Shirai. Oh my gosh, you guys are so timely. I'm so proud.
Hey.
Harriet, long time no see. Hey, Vanessa.
Hey, Shirai, how are you? How are you feeling? I can't believe you're here. Shirai's
Yeah,
not feeling well.
not yet. 100%, I must admit.
Okay, I'm giving you access as well. So I'm making you co-host as well. So please, please, please don't give anybody you don't know any their name. If they look fun, they sound funny, please don't give them access. Thank you. I'm gonna try and make a spotlight for everyone. So let me see how that works. Yeah, there you go. Okay, Trey, it's your phone that's on the co-host though. So how am I supposed to do it? Do you want to move to your phone or do you want to be on your computer?
I'll be on my phone, speaking into my phone, but I'll just leave the camera on for my computer.
Okay, so I'm gonna spotlight on your computer then. Yeah?
Okay, cool.
All right, cool.
Hey, Trey.
I'm gonna need to still have to
Hey,
make you
Shirai,
co-host.
how's it going?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
Good to see you.
Yeah, happy to see you guys.
Actually see you.
Actually seeing each other after so long. Haven't seen each other for quite a minute.
Okay. There's someone that is not spotlight yet. Who is that? Okay. All right. Sorry. Actually. No,
Vanessa,
yeah.
I have a little deck. Should I then share that with you before, or should I just share my screen
No,
then?
you can present. That's fine. I think the people who are presenting are Try and Tone. No, first of all, let me start. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa.
You guys are so like, what is this energy that you're giving me?
Hi, Vanessa.
Do you know how? Do you know how hard it is to get all of you together in the same space? It's a lot. It's a lot. That being said, hi guys. So I think that there's a little bit of like a communal, like, oh, we know each other in the ecosystem type of thing that happens here. I think, because some people know some people, and some people know some people, and it's like, huh, okay. Anyway, hi, my name is Vanessa Junovasi. I am head of communications and growth at Ingressive Capital. You sound like this is news to you, like you don't know me before. Yes, okay. That being said, this is pretty much just literally catering to, oh, finally, literally catering to our portfolio companies. There's Abraham from Career Body here. Hi, Abraham. Can you make yourself visible to us? Thanks. Hi.
Hello.
Okay. So to make this a situation where I do not say the wrong things about anybody, I am going to specifically ensure that everyone does their own intro. I will say your name and you will do your own intro so that you can say the words and you can push your own business. At the end of this, one of the things I want to be able to say is this, guys, I'm going to give them the contact of every one of you so that they can book for consultations, for recruitments, for interactions in case they want to do this moving forward. And the reason is part of the essence of doing this is there's supposed to be it's supposed to be a catalyst movement where we have everyone that is part of this, which is our portfolio companies, benefit from this, not just from the talking perspective, but also from a point where they are benefiting from the work that we do. And it's one of our comparative advantages at Ingressive Capital, which is that we do portfolio support, and portfolio support comes not just in like, in investor relations. It also comes with, like things like hiring and things like that. So I'm going to talk a lot less, and I'm going to let you guys do the talking more. Shirai, I wanted to be sure I'm pronouncing everybody's name correctly. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Shirai, what's your It's Gustavus. Should I say Shirai Gustavus?
Gustavus. Yeah, that's correct.
Gustavus. Lovely. Harriet Karaoke. Oh God, Vanessa University.
Yeah, just like the vowels. Karaoke.
Karaoke. Oh no, there's Tone Tunde Andrews is not a problem. Abraham Iola is not a problem, right? Okay, and then there's Trey Hunts, which is Trey Hunts. Okay, cool. We have people already in the waiting room, but I'm gonna wait till 4 o'clock before I let them in. Again, please guys, not let anybody in if you don't know who they are. If they say, oh, hi, I'm trying to, please not let them in. If you don't know who they are. We do not want anyone to disturb us on this, and we have very stringent timelines. So that being said, everyone has looked through the event flow. So I reckon everyone knows how we're going. So we're starting with Tom first. Afterwards is Abraham. After Abraham is Shirai. After Shirai is Harriet and Trey. And so Harriet and Troy are doing side by side, and they have 25 minutes to do that. Tony, you have 20 minutes. Abraham, you have 20 minutes, and then Shirai, you have 20 minutes. Shirai, do you want to try your presentation?
Sure.
Try to share your screen. Let's see what that looks like. Tony, are you adding your phone as well?
No.
There's someone that's adding you, so.
I took your presentation as a basis for this. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, can. Yes, I can.
Okay, cool.
Yes, perfect. Perfect, okay. Tony, do you want to try yours as well? Okay. Yeah, we're on page 13 though, so we got to start from the beginning. You will just go to present and then we can, it to be clear, I guess. Très perfection. So we're good. All right. And then Harriet and Trey, you guys are doing a talk, right? And then Q&A. Yeah? Okay. Abraham, the same? Yeah? Awesome. Lovely. We have people in the waiting room. I'm about to open the doors, and good luck, guys. Okay, again, you're doing your intros. Once I call your name, say your role and everything you want to do, talk about. All right, the doors are opening now. Okay. Exciting, exciting, exciting. All right, everyone, people are here already. That's a lot of you. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm gonna give another 2 minutes. Something about me. So let's not do that. Okay. Hi. Hello, everyone. You guys don't act like you don't know me. You already know who I am. If you don't, my name is Vanessa Junbasi. I am head of communications and growth at Ingressive Capital. And I've been the one barraging you with messages, calls, emails regarding this, because I honestly think that it'll be very beneficial to not just the portfolio companies, but even us at Ingressive Capital and the team as a whole. And I have some of the most amazing human beings here to not just talk you through the process, but also be like your carry-on afterwards. And if you ever need, if you ever thought about or never thought about a time where you would need these people, I would be very grateful to know that I put them in your life. So yes. If you're just joining us, welcome. If you have any questions, first of all, house rules. Please, if you come in, put yourself on mute. Do not unmute yourself. If you want to have a conversation, you want to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand up or just like comment in the section. I will see it. Don't worry about it. And the questions will be asked, I promise. I want to believe we have a significant amount of like put together people here. So without much back and forth, I will like to start to introduce our speakers. And I will start ladies first. I'll start with Tone Tunde Andrews. Hi, Tone, can you introduce yourself?
Hi. So like Vanessa has said, my name is Tone Tunde Andrews. I am the founder and CEO of a company called The People Practice. And we work with startups and small businesses as they scale across every people-related function that they have. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Tone. Next is Sharai Gustavus. Hi, Sharai, can you just introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. Oh, please excuse because we're currently quarantined, so it could be that my kids pop in and make a lot of noise. I will try to mute myself. Currently in Berlin, working for Move Africa as global head of recruitment and as a global consultant focused on HR and recruitment in the last couple of years, and did the bulk of my experience in Berlin, where I scaled startups and digital agencies and also worked as a recruiter previously. Thank you very much.
My gosh, Sharai, you just sound so stealth.
I'm trying not to raise too much alarm because the kids, if they hear my voice, they'll start, you know. So
it's okay, we understand. Next on the list is Abraham Iola. Hi, Abraham, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Abraham Iola. I'm founder of Parabadi. And essentially, we work with early stage startups with recruiting. We don't do anything else, we just do recruiting. Either technical or non-technical. Before starting Parabadi, I ran recruiting for Jumia in Africa, and then joined the team of Move Me Back, also helping them with recruiting for companies like Uber and Google when they moved into Africa. So happy to be here. I'm sure we've worked with a few companies and a few people who are already in the call here. Thank you.
Okay, and then last but not least would be the twin duos of, well, introduce yourself. Hi, Trey. Hi, Harriet. Please introduce yourselves. So Harriet go first and then Trey go next.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Harriet. I'm one of the founders with Trey at AfriJob, and we focus on transforming businesses with top talent in Africa and beyond. And it's also a pleasure to see a lot of people that I know. So good to see a few of our partners in the call. But as we'll talk about more here, it's really about ensuring that you have the right people in your team to scale your companies. You can have the money, but if you don't have the people, then you don't scale the business. So how do we ensure that you have the right people? That's the question that keeps us up at night. So looking forward to the conversation and excited to connect with most of you.
Lovely. Trey, you're next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Trey. I am the other co-founder of AfriJob, along with Harriet. As Harriet said, we think about talent and recruiting 24/7. We've worked with hundreds of companies across the African continent, most of those being startups. And so we're always really happy to talk with more companies and share our experiences in any way that we can. So pleasure to be here, and thank you.
I'm gonna be the first person to be on mute and talk. All right, that being said, thank you very much for being here. I really, really cannot appreciate you guys taking your time out to be part of this. And I reckon that most of our portfolio companies are here, and just so that we can go straight into it, Tone, you have the floor. I'm gonna be in the background, guys.
Fantastic. Okay. So just take us through. I've got 20 minutes, right, Vanessa?
Yes, you do.
So yeah, I'm hoping I can run through quickly. Okay, so Vanessa had mentioned, she wanted me to talk about people management, culture management in startups, and I'll try to do just that. I already explained about people practice and how we help startups, we help small businesses scale by providing bespoke people-centered solutions. So today, what we're looking at, even though I feel like there are a few more people who are tailored to, recruiting, so I'll try to minimize the time I've got for finding the right people and just leave it to the, the core guys, and try and look more around designing the right culture and environment that you want, and creating policies that would help, sustain those cultures as well. So people management, in a nutshell, what's people management? It's literally about finding, so Google calls it find, grow, keep. And I like that from like 10 years ago. So I tried to coin it a different way and make mine sound special, but clearly I got it from Google. So the way I've coined people management is finding the right people, empowering the right people, and locking them in, all to meet the company's goals. But if you were to expand that further, there's so many aspects of people management that you already know as founders, hiring and the horrible side of letting the wrong people go, onboarding, learning, engaging employees, just ensuring that their welfare is great, ensuring that the culture that you have is great, designing policies and also performance to assess them as well. So today we're focusing on the 2 R's, so recruitment and retention. How do we recruit people and how do we retain people using culture and policies as well? So I'm trying to go really quickly because I've got a few slides. So the first thing is, as startups, what we find is that when we are trying to hire people, there's a funding issue, there's a timing issue as well, because we need everything done yesterday. So basically, how do we innovate around the hiring process? How do we get our people quickly and on time? And literally is to use, targeted hiring and then amplify those efforts through technology and social media. I think someone came in. So what does this mean? And so a number of people can use recruiters like, Career Buddy, myself, but obviously there are a few founders that want to do it themselves when they're still a lot smaller. And so how do they attract people? One, push around different platforms. I always say to people that if you're recruiting and using just one platform, you're limiting yourself. So you can use different job boards, you can use WhatsApp, you can use LinkedIn, you can use Twitter. So I find that for me, Twitter does a lot. Twitter and LinkedIn do a lot more than Instagram. But again, I'm making sure that I'm in different pools, getting references, getting referrals from people on the team as well. And something that we do that I find that people do is, if you feel like someone's doesn't have the experience, you kind of let them go and then forget about them. So you can have a pool where you say, I'm looking for a product manager, for example, and say, we want someone who has 5 years experience, but this person has 2 to 3 years. Keep them in a pool, and in a year or two, you can then just reconnect or circle back. And I find that for targeted, I can't wait to listen to everyone else who does tech recruiting as a core. But I find that for when I'm looking for developers or designers, I have to go to different Slack groups that I'm on, or different Slack groups that I have people in. So just ensure that you have your hands in so many pots or pies, so that way you're getting as many people as possible. Now we know to use visuals. I see people on LinkedIn who literally put out the entire job description in Word, and I wonder who's reading them. Like, we have short attention spans these days, so try and use visuals just so that people are aware, and then monitor application numbers. If those numbers are low, keep pushing again. So how do we identify our people? I've kind of stolen this from, with business development teams. What they do is create client personas. And so I kind of said to myself, how do we create, an employee persona? So if I was looking for someone, what would I do? And, just try and find who is my ideal person, who's my ideal candidate? What are their interests? What did they read? What groups are they on? Hint, like the Slack groups I'm talking about, where you're likely to reach them, and what tools do they use, where do they get their information, what concerns do they have, what challenges do they have. So for example, so trying to use Nigeria. So if you live on the island, so anyone who knows Nigeria, if you live on the island and you have a developer who lives on the mainland, what are the frustrations that people like that are going through when it would take them 2 to 3 hours? So how do you make such roles remote? Just understand the frustrations that they have so that you can prepare for that in advance before having conversations with them. What drives them? What's their ambition? Are they looking to earn in Forex, and how can that happen if that is possible? Or literally, how do we get their goals? How do we align the personal goals that they have with the goals that you have for them? So that's literally how to create your employee persona. You can use job ads as well. I find that job ads are a lot quicker to use instead of using job descriptions. And you can literally put the entire job ad in a visual, so that way it goes up in a banner. If you're putting that up there, it's easier to create, it's targeted, almost like if you've done this, you've done that, almost like those perfumes, like if you like this, you'd like that. And that way it's easier for you to find the candidates that you want. So that way the candidates know, if I've done this, then they're looking for me. So an example of a job ad. So for example, if you're looking for a client retention manager, you're putting all this out already. You want someone who's worked in this similar industry, managed whatever it is that you want them to manage. We want someone who has this technical experience. So that way, if you're applying, that if I haven't managed inventory, if I haven't managed, a database for, client orders or anything, then I shouldn't be applying for it. And you want someone who's worked in maybe a similar team size as your company, so that again, because it's a startup, you find if you're managing a startup, that if someone who's worked in a startup may understand the fast-paced nature of that, industry as well. And then also in terms of attitude, you want someone who is, an active listener, again, tied to the role, so that way you kind of reduce the number of non-exciting, profiles that you will get applying for the role. So that's what I call, a job ad. But if you still want to go through the route of using a job description, for example, I find that, just go straight to the point, a summary of the role, tell them about the company as well, and sell the company in terms of, this is the problem we're solving, or this is the need we're meeting. And if you're interested, in that kind of need, then they would want to work with you. Tell them about the role, tell them about the, the skills that you're looking for in terms of them. And then something that I find that people are looking for these days is they're realizing that it's a symbiotic relationship. And so they're not just looking at why we should work for you, why you want us, but why do we want you? So tell them, try and sell the company. This is why we are amazing as a company, as a team, as a group, whatever. This is why you should work for us. So now just going into culture and culture tying it, because I find that a lot of people are still, slightly confused on how do we design or create the culture that we want. And so it's the ideas, custom, social, reward, or punish. So for example, if you say our culture is one that is, sorry, can you hear me? Because it's saying my connection is unstable. Great. So I always say to people that if you say, I've seen a few job descriptions where they say no jacks, no jacks allowed, sort of as part of the values. But if you find that, the actual jacks are the ones getting promoted, then clearly their culture is that we don't mind you being a jack as long as you are great at your job. So culture is really what you reward, and culture is really what you punish. And another thing that people need to be aware of is that culture is top-led. So even if you're creating it with the entire team, if opposite of what your culture times, you write it or print it or get them to cram it and say it on Monday mornings in Monday meetings. So that is literally, what culture is. And so I always say to people, if you imagine I'm a new hire and I show up in your company and I ask you, what can I do to get ahead, or what makes people successful here? What the answer you give is the sort of environment that you have created. And if you look at those who are ahead, or those who keep getting promoted, or those who keep getting bumped up, or getting increased or recognized, whatever it is, if you find that they have certain attributes, then it must mean that your culture favors those certain attributes. Vanessa, tell me when I've got just 5 minutes left, because I don't really have the gift of summary. So if you take culture, if you go back to the beginning, when you're looking, or when you're trying to decide what is the culture that we have, you need to look at these four areas. So purpose and legacy. Purpose is why us? Why do we exist, outside of making money? A lot of companies would fail that test because a lot of people, they're really after that money, but why do we exist? So a few people have great, purpose and legacy. So listening to AfriJobs, it's very clear to see what the purpose is outside of making money. And it's interesting that their purpose is tied to why they make money. And the legacy, when you look back at yourself, how would you want to be remembered, or how do you think people would remember you? What contribution did you make to people? What impact did you have on people? What contribution did you make to society with the company that you had? Mission as well. What are the things that you're doing to get to where you want to be? That's your mission. So if you have to go back to why do we exist? What do we do to get to where we want to be, which is mission? And then values are like your guideposts. If you don't have values at this point, you need to sit down and create them. And when you're creating them, it can't just be, oh, I love the idea of this. If you already have people in a company, you need to get them together and sort of look at the people who are standing out, or the people who have exciting or great attributes, and see how you can model that into values, right? And the last one is also behavior. When you're looking at your culture, you should be asking yourself, what do we start? What do we stop as a group? And what do we continue? The one thing I have found, and I may be generalizing here, but the one thing I have found with founders is that a lot of founders, may not necessarily like to hear the truth. So I find that when you're doing this culture things, if you already have a set company in place, you have to be honest, you have to be open, you have to take those horrible feedback just to get the better of the company. So we're getting towards the end now. So that literally is, so one of the companies that I really think that their culture ties into what they do is called Zappos. Zappos used to sell shoes, and they were bought by Amazon over a decade ago. But there's a book that I think all founders need to read. It's called Delivering Happiness by Tony Say. He passed away last year, but he was awesome in terms of creating the kind of culture that he wanted. And looking at his values, I'll just take a few of them. The first one was deliver wow through service. For them, it was a case of when people get our shoes, we want them to go wow. Literally want them to be excited about the sort of service that we have given to them. Another thing that he did was, the third one, where he said, create fun and little weirdness. They used to have such weird gatherings, but exciting gatherings to them, to a few of their vendors as well. And they were so big on family. So when he said, build a positive team and family spirit, they had one of their rules was, when they hired you, they would pay you $1,000 to leave after a month or two. And very few people took that money, just to show you how great the sort of environment they had was. They were so big on culture and so deliberate on culture. They built a positive team and family spirit. Family was involved. They had family days. So their values were true. Their values were life. Their values were lived out. It wasn't just, I think they have a bit too many values. But when you read his book and when you listen to different employees who've worked with him, the values were exactly what Zappos was about. So that's literally, try and build a cult, should build values that are true to you and true to your company. Don't imitate, Netflix, for example, and give people everyone to have their holidays, can take as many holidays, and you don't really mean it, and then you start to question them. So it has to be true to you. So that's literally, culture in a nutshell. And then the final thing I was talking about is that when you want to sustain the culture that you have to create policies that help you sustain them. So policies, again, they guide you, the principles people live by, they let people know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And what you find is that with every new hire that you make, your culture changes slightly. So you have to ensure that it stays as almost the way you've kind of set it, or the way you've kind of created it together. So you have to have these policies to guide people. So for example, have a handbook. I'm not going to go into what a handbook has, but literally have a handbook that is creative. Policies, so policies that I would say you should have as startups at this point, safe, healthy, inclusive policies, especially what we're finding in the tech ecosystem, global and non-global. So things that have, workplace harassment, sexual harassment, things on performance. How do you measure performance? Do you use KPIs, OKRs? Do you do one-on-ones? Do you have feedback sessions? Whatever it is. And disciplinary policies as well. If there's a misconduct, how do we assess that? How do we punish that? How do we get you to change? As well as, leave policies or onboarding policies, whatever they are. So, and I always say to people that policies don't have to be boring. These are not very, I'm not sure how well you can see them. So one of the things that we do is we create policies and we design policies. This is one of the policies that we've done, which is ours, because it's the only one I can actually show to people. And, in the last one, it kind of shows what our purpose is and what our values are. And a few of the things that we've done is we threw in different quotes that speak to the values that we have, or speak to the different sections in our policies that we have. So your policies don't have to be boring, documents that people have to read. And so when we're talking about, this is the final bit, when we're talking about, the relevance of people management, if you don't manage your people right, there are mistakes that will happen. You'll have wrong hires, people don't understand their roles, there are no review systems, so people don't even know where they're going wrong. People are ignoring laws, ignoring policies, things are being swept under the carpet. You don't have a culture, or you don't have, or the culture is being ignored, for example. And what tends to happen is that you find that people are leaving. And so you have higher attrition rates. People are not motivated. The workplace is toxic. People start getting burnt out. People just start skipping work, coming up with sick excuses all the time. Performance is horrible. Your traction is low. It sounds like doom and gloom. But just to give you, just to explain to you how relevant this is. And one of the biggest things is that, it leads to poor employer branding. There are a few companies that I wouldn't even ask anyone to work in. There are a few companies I wouldn't want to partner with, because there's a lot of work to do to change the perception that people have of that company. And so it's a lot harder, because then they don't get the best people, because the best people would say, look, I have options and I choose not to be here in this sort of toxic environment. So yeah, that's literally it. We're going into a new world. Technology is the order of the day. How do you simplify everything you're doing with technology? Because that would help you manage your people better. What systems do you have in place? HRS systems. People are working remotely. Do you have policies for that? How do you get them connected? How do you keep them constantly in communication? How do you keep them not feeling like they're alone, especially when they're starting in a remote time like this? And literally, how do you innovate around policy? So these are the questions that I'm kind of just leaving you with, and to think about through this. And obviously, if you have any questions after, feel free to let me know. I'm not sure if I did it under 20 minutes. I tried. I hope I didn't go too fast.
No,
but yeah,
you were actually perfect. Firstly, if you have any questions, you guys, you can actually write it in the chat section and we can talk about it. That being said, oh my gosh, Tom, can't believe you did that. Yes, really timely. Is it possible to get this document that you put together for the team? Or for
yeah, I'll think about it, but yeah.
Okay, that being said, when I started talking about this, I said that it's important for us to remember that these people are available at your consultation. So the conversation doesn't have to be this, but it's just giving you context to some of the things that needs to be included, added, participatory in your the companies that you're, well, all the companies that you're managing or, you know, being a part of. And moving on to the next, just so that the next person doesn't have to suffer. But so we can come back here and we can actually continue this conversation. I know that there are a bunch of things that I also want to ask you, so it's going to come up anyway. And that being said, next person on the list is Abraham. Hi, Abraham, you're next.
Thank you, Vanessa, and thank everyone. And thank you, Tom, for that brilliant presentation. I think that I could notice that you were really trying to go through a lot of things, and I think that we could stay on one slide and just talk about it for the whole day. Also happy that we're having this conversation. Just a bit of background about, for example, why when I started working in recruiting, my first recruiting.
Sorry, before you start, Abraham, I just want people to know what your topic is going to be focused on. And it's pretty much just the significance of like talent recruitment in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
So Abraham's going to be focusing on like the importance of that, because one of the things we're also doing is helping to collaborate or connect our portfolio companies with talent recruiters, but then they also have to see the relevance and importance of what that is and what that represents. And one of the things that Abraham does, and if you were not here in the beginning, is he does that for a living, and not just here in Nigeria, across the world. So Abraham, just wanted to give them context in case you just joined us, because you were late. Not judging you, but okay.
Yes, thank you. So yes, I'm talking about the relevance of having recruiters or working with recruiters or working with organizations that help you with talent sourcing. And just to give a background about how did I even start working in this? I was working at Jumia, never had recruiting experience, but started running recruiting for Jumia in Nigeria. And one of the big things that we noticed at the beginning was companies don't think enough about how you bring in people in the first stage. So when you start your company, you, the founder, are like the first set of people, then you hire the next set of people who then hire the next set of people. And what happens in a lot of companies is that maybe founders are 10, and then you hire people who are 9, and they people who are 8, and then before you know it, they hire other people, and the quality drops. So as your company grows, the potential is that the quality of employees that you attract is always going to reduce. So first thing is to think about how do you even put in place a system that allows you to know what kind of person works in this and how you can keep that standard from person number 1 to person number 100 to 1,000 to 10,000. So also speaking about how recruiters or talent placement people work for startups and how relevant that is I think that HR people are some of the most disrespected and most disregarded people in the startup ecosystem. And I know that because I sat in a lot of management meetings, and you just kind of dismiss HR people like, yeah, they do the payroll, they do leave, or all that. But for the companies that are some of the biggest companies that take this very serious, they know that HR people are the most important people you need to have. In fact, I'm going to say that one of the most important hires you need to make first is to hire either a recruiter or someone who's going to help you in identifying how you're going to grow your company. And the reason that is that when you start hiring, when you start your company, you're looking for funding, you're doing product market fit, you're looking at technology, you're looking at regulation, you're focusing on lots of things. And then you're doing recruiting. At the very first stage, you're talking to your friends, they're recommending people, so your team is growing. But the moment either you do your seed round and your team goes to 10, you don't have the capacity anymore to manage day-to-day recruiting because the level it jumps up. Also think about the system where you now have to recruit people, because the friends that you have, they run through their list of people that they can recommend to you. So you don't have to start looking at, well, I want to hire a CTO, I want to hire a product manager. You need to think about, how do I do that? First thing people do is you go on LinkedIn, you post a job description. And if you're in Nigeria, in Kenya, when you post one job, today, by the end of the day, you're going to receive 100 applications. So you're going to spend a lot of hours, kind of like going through that. maybe from the 100, you'd find some 10 that are decent that you want to talk to. Then you talk to all those 10. If you did that one day, you're not going to have time to either reply your emails, run your business, do all of those things, right? So, I mean, you may be a superman, you can decide, oh, I'm going to run that. But the best thing is to just find someone who is good that can handle that for you. And that person shouldn't be just anyone, shouldn't be an intern that you hire and just say, you know what, just post the job, set the interviews. You want someone who understands what you're trying to build, understands the values that you're trying to build in the company, understand what kind of organization you're trying to put in place, and they find the right people that fit that for you. So the person that you hire that helps you with the first set of recruiting, either that's your HR person or it's just a recruiter you hire straight, is someone that you need to think about critically, because it will affect how your business grows. If you hire the right person, it helps you unlock your business growth in a much better way than you would ever think about. A good example of this is to think about someone called Patty McCord. She was chief people officer at Netflix. And if you see the Netflix culture document, she was an important hire for Reed Hastings when they started Netflix. And just having her on board helped them figure out what kind of people do we want to hire, what kind of culture do we want to have, how do we want to attract people. So how should you go about this when you're doing this for the first time? There are lots of ways. One is you can just hire a recruiter first and you bring them on board. You give them, it costs you a lot of money up front, but you get some good results from that. You can also outsource it. And in outsourcing, you can have two different options. One is a retained search, which I think a lot of startups in Africa cannot afford because it's expensive. What happens in retained search is you have a firm into your structure, help you figure. You think bookkeeping CFO at the beginning, more in helping you figure out the right person to hire. And hey, it says my connection is unstable. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, it went off for a second, but we can hear you.
Okay, so retained search or exec search firms, if you're hiring a co-founder, an MD or a C-level role, a VP role, depending on how big your startup is at this stage, you should look at those. They're really expensive, but in most cases, in a lot of cases, you get value for money. The next is the sort of like the contingency search, which is a lot what you would find in a lot of Nigeria. And that they also help you search for people, screen people. They don't do as much an in-depth amount of work as a retained search firm, but they help you minimize the amount of time you spend in searching for, let's say, a new hire. So you use them for mid to senior level roles, in some cases also junior roles. If you're expanding to a new country, for example, you need someone to help you identify the right talent to work with in that country, they can be good options. If you're looking for a very difficult to find hire, say for example, you're looking for a business controller, or you're doing technical recruiting and you need mid to senior level engineers, contingency search firms are very good at doing this. Usually they will charge you between some 10% to 15%, 20%. In Nigeria, a lot of people also do lower percentage than that. I think that for both retained search and contingent search, the best way to find them is to ask people, to ask for referrals, to ask either your investor or someone that you know who has done recruiting, to ask them to recommend someone that they've worked with that can really help you. Because like every service profession, is very, very difficult to know people who are really committed to doing the job that can help you, and people who just want to, they just want to make it the next step and they just move on. So if you're outsourcing, there's a good option. You can also, in a lot of cases, if you don't have a lot of money, you can, there are people who are working full-time as recruiters, and you can hire them on a part-time basis to help you either write out hiring structure, hiring strategy, figure out the best way to to source an interview, and you can pay them either they come to work with you once a week or they work with an internal team that you already have. There are lots of people that you can find actually in Nigeria like this. If you're already working as recruiters in an established firm or in a startup, they're good people that you can always reach out to and negotiate. This is what I want to accomplish. This is what I need help with, and let's agree on a very basic fee that you pay. So the benefit of this is that you don't pay heavy salary of having someone full time. You get the benefit of having someone just for a few amounts, just for when you need them. You get the quality, but you also you get quality. You get it at a reduced rate, and when you're ready to bring them on board full time, you can always call them back. Of course, a lot of people also use job boards. As I mentioned at the beginning, the problem with job boards is the moment you post the job, there are hundreds of people applying. You need to spend time figuring out how to screen, how to determine who is the right candidate. And what you want is you want to be able to get the right people into your team fast before, without spending too much time. And I'm sure you already know, hiring is very difficult. But really now hiring in Africa is actually much more difficult because there's a lot of money, there's more companies hiring, and we now have sort of a very limited supply of very good and very senior people. So in a lot of cases, you also need to be a bit tactical in terms of how do you want to hire, and having, I think, the right recruiting partner or the right recruiting resource helps you figure out the best way. So in terms of kind of resources that you can get, that's it. In terms of how, if you want to do this yourself, or even if someone is helping you, some things that you should pay attention to is, I think Tom was talking about it in terms of when you set out to hire, do it the current way everybody does, that you put a job description out and you promote it and you wait for people to apply and all that. But I think as a startup, you need to rethink that. If you're looking for good people, most of the good people that you're looking to hire are currently not looking for a job. So either you're using your channel, either it's through your Twitter account or your LinkedIn account or whatever social media account you're using. I think that most startup founders underestimate how they need to sell their startup, how they need to sell the vision, how they need to sell what they're trying to build, and how you need to convince people to come on that journey with you. You don't have the money to compete with Shell, GC Bank, or Axis Bank, and all that. You want to get good people, but to get good people, you want to also make sure that you're compensating in the proper way. So that means you need to sell a lot more. You need to sell the vision. In the same way you're convincing an investor to say, this is a great idea, it's going to work out, give us your money, you should convince also even the most junior person, because that helps you figure out some of the other things that we talked about before: culture, the quality of hire, and one of the biggest mistakes you can make is to hire very poor people at the beginning, because the moment the first few hires that you have are not the standard that you want, they influence. If you're trying to bring in even great people much later, they influence that. Also, good people want to work with other good people. So nobody wants to join your startup if there is no one who is like, okay, I think I'm going to learn something from that, or I'm going to do something more exciting than what I'm currently doing, even if the pay doesn't match what I currently earn. So those are some of the most important points. I wanted to talk about some ideas around some of the mistakes that I know that people have made. That even we've been doing this for 2 years. I've spoken to a lot of founders, and there's still a big mistake that people make every day when they try to either work with recruiting agencies or they're putting out their own recruiting strategy. Number one is that most people don't have a recruiting strategy. You don't have a hiring strategy. You don't have how do we want to bring on board someone? So everybody relies on CV, but most people lie on their CVs. And I'm going to be honest, I would say that I've had some of the best people to work either for our clients or for our team without even the CV, because you want a person who has the right attitude, of course, the right skill, but someone who buys into the vision and they can grow with your startup. I think that a lot of founders discount the importance of a person just knowing that this is the kind of organization that we are, and this is the kind of people that can work here, and this is how we're going to try to get them. You don't have to do it in the same way that GT Bank is trying to attract people, or Axis Bank is trying to attract people. Second, that's connected to this is most startups think about a talent surplus market. So when I was in Jumia, I remember that we always, you would hear founders and the management team would say, oh, if that person is misbehaving, yeah, we just fire them. Like Abraham is going to get another person in within a week. This is Nigeria. A lot of people are unemployed. And I mean, that always made me, I was always annoyed about that, because we miss a lot of opportunity in just letting good people go because we didn't treat them very well, because we thought this is a huge market. But the truth is, this is a huge market with a lot of unemployed people, but with very few really talented and really good people that your startup will really need. So if we know this is a market, this is a talent capacity market, actually, we should wake up to that. And what we need to do every day is to figure out, number one, the right environment to attract the right people. And when they come in, trying to treat them well, give them a reason to stay and continue to grow with your company. Number three is, I think I was mentioning this also before, is startups trying to have the same hiring strategy as traditional companies. The whole idea of startups is that you start something to disrupt the traditional firms there. So you figure out a way to get into the market to solve a problem for customers that the traditional companies are not doing. And if you're going to get people on board to work with you, you shouldn't also go through the same approach. So most traditional companies would use applicant tracking systems that weed out people's profiles, people's CVs, don't have the right key as a startup. Has become a game for lots of people. The way most people treat hiring is, can you hear me? It says my internet is integrity. Good. So the way most people think about getting a job again is now is when you post the job, and I know it's going to go through an applicant tracking system, I would also rewrite my CV and copy all the keywords to match. So even if my experience is totally irrelevant, when your applicant tracking system sees my CV and matches the keyword, I go through, right? So your recruiting managers, your hiring managers are now looking at a lot of relevant CVs. So you need to flip the script in terms of getting the right people. There are a lot of cases of where someone is being hired without even an interview, or someone is being hired by just giving them a task to perform. And you saw how they did it, and you know that they had the right attitude and the right quality for your team, and you hire them rather than, oh, we have 4 interview stages. You have to take an assessment, and then you have to talk to someone on the committee, and then you have to do this and do this. And most startups, I send it, and then 8 weeks in a recruiting process. And by the time you're done, someone else is that particular talent. If they're good, they've already got another job with another platform that is not serious. So again, we're in a talent scarcity market. A lot of people are competing for very few, very good talent, right? So we need to adapt your startup hiring strategy to fit into the kind of market that you're in. Number 4 is that we have we have an over-reliance on job description. So every time you want to hire, you ask someone, they just go online, they Google product manager, JD, and just copy, and then they just send it, and they just put it online. Number 1, everyone is doing that. And job descriptions are some of the most misleading parts of recruiting today, because they tell you a list of functions. But if you're a startup, you're hiring people not to perform a list of functions, but to solve some problem that you have. So what is more interesting to me as a candidate is that I want to see, when I join, in the next 6 to 12 months, these are the big problems that you want me to be able to solve for you. And I would want you to tell me, here is the vision, these are the problems, these are some of the issues that you face if you join. Because the moment you join our startup, what I hired you for may change 3 months from now because we may be growing faster and we need you to be able to do something else. So a lot of startups are doing here is a list of 19 activities that we put in our JD. And here's a list of requirements that we put that are not relevant and we post online. And that's how we want to hire. And the question that I ask a lot of founders now is that, have you ever promoted anyone based on how they did all the line items on their JD before? And most people would say no, because you never promote anyone for doing all the tasks you wrote on a JD. You promote people for achieving, for solving big goals, for solving big problems, for achieving big goals for your team. So why don't you attract people by just actually listing those things you want them to achieve, those problems that you want them to solve, and putting it and seeing if the right people are going to come to you, as opposed to who want to, pick up some activities that they perform on a day-to-day basis. Fifth and final thing is, a lot of people are hiring for, if you're hiring for a startup, you're still hiring for skills ahead of talent. So kind of like similar to all of the things I said, you're thinking about, I have someone who has 5 years experience, 10 years experience, 20 years experience. Number one, I've seen a lot of situations where people who have the right experience, 10 years experience in sales, they join a startup, they realize that, oh no, they don't call me sir, they don't wear this kind of thing, they don't have this. Oh, you asked me to do that. No, it's not on my JD. Oh, my work finished at 5 p.m. Oh, you want me to stay longer, you need to pay me. Oh, I don't check my emails after 6 p.m. All of those things. Those things are not bad, but if you're trying to build a startup, you're at war. You're trying to outmuscle a lot of people. So you need people who have not just like they have the right skill in sales, but they have the right talent, right attitude. And the benefit of this is the person has right attitude, the right intelligence, the right drive, they grow with your company, as opposed to someone who's just like, oh, they check a lot of boxes with the skill. So hiring for skill is very good, but I would say that you shouldn't hire skill just over talent. I would say as a high growth startup, pay a lot of attention to people with the right skill, of course, but more people who have right attitude, right talent, who can grow with the company. Most of these successful people that still ran Jumia, they started as entry-level people and they had the right attitude. And most of the experienced people we hired much later, they left after 6 months because they're like, yeah, this is too fast paced for me. I want to, after 6 p.m., I don't want to be bored about it. But the person who is driven, who is hungry, they're looking for lots of opportunities to grow and they don't mind doing that. And I would say that to just pay more attention to that and figure out how you want to attract those kind of people a lot more. Have I got any more minutes? Okay.
Go to.
Sorry?
But yes, thank you so much. Thank you. That's just anyway, it takes me back to like literally like growing in the like from like when I started working to here, and it's just interesting to see all the many different things, because at the end of the day, I know fully well that most people, one of the questions that I remember when I was just I just started to get familiar with the ecosystem, and one of the questions that one of my former colleagues would ask is like, founders always say they want X, Y, and Z. Do they have work experience? And it's always funny because when he asked that question, because the 3 people we had worked with were people who literally got out of school and literally started working. And then it's like, they're the ones that are asking, do this, do that, ask this, remove this, take that. He did not do it. He did KPI change. Like, it's just like, it was like, and at the time, we felt like, well, but no. But then everyone is literally, it's like a student of life. And because of that, it's like you're learning, you have to go to manager school, you have to go to business school, you have like, there's all these things that you need to do. Why is the same level of expectation not alluded to the people who join your company, especially when you're trying to groom younger generation of people who are actually in the ecosystem and startups and things like that. So it just takes me back to all of that. It's very interesting. Thank you so much, Abraham. That was absolutely amazing. I've been seeing Shirai and someone just shaking heads, nodding, agreeing, laughing since, and I just, you know what, I'm just gonna go straight to Shirai. So Shirai, this is you, and this is a deep dive into hiring in Africa. So over to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the things that the speakers before me have said. And yes, indeed, if you have seen me, I was shaking my head, nodding, clapping, and screaming amen every now and then, and preach. And couldn't agree more with the things that they have said. Really, maybe just to emphasize what Abraham was saying, especially for companies looking at scaling from those three models that he had described: retainer, contingency, and then getting somebody in as a freelancer, which now is a setup known as RPO, recruitment process outsourcing. This is definitely something I can recommend to companies that want to hire a high amount of people, because you don't pay per hire, but you rather have a fixed fee, and then the costs do not explode exponentially. But yeah, a part of that, just emphasizing exactly what he said. So don't want to steal your thunder, Abraham. Thank you very much. I have a little presentation, so I hope you can all see it. Please confirm.
Yes, we can.
Good. So I try to focus on two parts. So also, as recruitment and retention are the main issues that you asked me to focus on, and I anticipated that there would be a more general approach. I tried to focus on key takeaways. So just to get started, we have the goals, and of course, I don't want to bore you too much of my personal biography, but I think you, the founders and the HR managers who are listening, have already had touch points with the people here. As I haven't spoken to them yet, I just wanted to introduce myself. So these are a couple of the companies that I have been working with in the past. You may be familiar with Move and Lori because they're a bit more known on the continent, but Colorfy and Emnify, these are two companies in the IoT space that I've worked with in the past. And ResearchGate, I scaled the monetization department there. ResearchGate is a social network, basically the equivalent to Facebook, just focused on scientists and researchers. And Amathian Agri is an investment company focused on food production and processing in sub-Saharan Africa. So these are my credentials. Looking at the basis before you get started on hiring people, pretty similar to what Toon had said, make sure the mission and vision is clearly defined. Make sure the purpose, the why, is clearly defined, that you can, in one, max 2 sentences, say which solution do you provide. Ensure that the core values and beliefs are clearly outlined and that you are aligned with your team members. All of that creates the brand promises that you also want to have written down, concise. So you want to know who you are, what you do, have the programs, products, services really clearly defined, have clear KPIs, ideally OKRs. So I had this all much more detailed. God thanks, I summarized it. If not, we would have heard pretty similar things that Toon has already brought up. But just saying this because all she said, I can just re-emphasize, she with a big exclamation mark. Having clear goals, 1 to 2 years, 3 to 5 years, 10 to 25 years. These are all things that you do not only want to have for yourself, but also for the sake of recruitment and retention. Of course, a lot of these things like the goals, they may change over the time, but there are certain things that should stand like pillars when it comes to purpose and core values on which you can then build on top of. So the answers provide the framework for your employer brand. Who are you, why you do what you do, and what you do. This should be able to be steamed down, or in an essence, in a sentence. Also looking at the strengths, weaknesses, and trends. What are the inherent strengths of the organization? What are the weaknesses, the inherent weaknesses of the organization that aren't about to change anytime soon? So you have to be aware of that. And what are the trends? What are the significant changes in technology, distribution, production, innovation, markets, and so on and so forth around the world that might impact your industry or organization? People ops as part of leadership. This is also coming back to what was said. You want to invest in your people and your relationships to them. You want to invest in your people operations, resources, and tools. You want to invest time and give your people operations team a seat at the table, responsibility and accountability. So pretty similar to what they said before. The big difference of the companies that are very successful tend to be the ones that understand the meaning of people operations. So when I say you want to invest, I do not only mean you throw money at the wall and see what sticks. You really have to commit. And what I tend to see a lot of founders do, and they see it as an important thing on paper, but they do not walk the walk, even though they talk the talk. So you really want to commit time. You have to block the time. If you have to reschedule the meetings, then reschedule and ensure that you have them. Very often the people operations stuff that is not handled gets pushed back, and then they stay as something important but not urgent until they're important and urgent. And usually with people operations, when they're important and urgent, things have already they start falling apart. So as I said, I focused on takeaways. I have 6 recruitment takeaways and 6 retention takeaways. Recruitment takeaway number 1, establish a work culture employees brag about. Listen to your team's demands. Something that I've realized over the course of time, a lot of founders, they will get inexpensive consultants that consultants come into the company, they interview the people, and then they tell the founders what the people tell them in fancy slides. So just listen to your people. You know, it's not rocket science. I know at an early stage you may not have a big team, but try to listen to them. Create a culture that attracts the right people. So this is something that also, again, taking Google as a good example, they created a culture that put engineering in the center of everything that they were doing. And then that trickled down into all the different departments. So whatever you do, you want to create a culture that attracts the right people. So less of asking, how do you get the right people? Create an environment that attracts the right people. The best recruiters are happy employees. So if you have employees that are happy, that go out there, basic as if they're at the next social event, as soon as we're allowed to have social events again, but if they commute, if they talk to people, those employees are the best brand ambassadors you can have. Having a referral bonus system is of course something that is a nice extra to express, you know, just to give them a token of appreciation, but that shouldn't be the main driver. What you want to have is your employees getting the people on board because they think, this is so great. I want to have more people that I care about on board because I want to share the experience of this awesome journey with them. Offer competitive bonuses and high equity. So this is something that I have realized that is, of course, always challenging also to then break it down to the investors. But if you have that ingrained already in the DNA from the very start and from the get-go, having a share of the equity that is planned in for your employees, that nothing helps as much as getting people committed and feeling they're part of the whole story as having their stake in the game. Recruitment takeaway number 2. Identify the most important clearly defining all roles. So to get started by that, identify the most important programs, funding, operations, and processes that drive your organization. Prioritize, create roles, and assign someone specific accountable for each process. List key performance indicators for each process, better, faster, efficient. And again, this is something very often people in the beginning, I know it is challenging and you have a ton of tasks that will come up and that are not clearly defined, but try to write it down, try to have it as clearly defined as possible so that you can avoid having a mess and having arguments about who was responsible for that, and then start playing the blame game, which you want to avoid in any way. Recruitment takeaway number 3, commit to recruitment. I cannot emphasize it often enough. As founders, I know you have a ton of things that come up ad hoc, but start the interviews on time, no rescheduling, no interruption, and allocate enough time. Having just a 10 to 15 minutes conversation, that is not enough to assess that properly. You really want to have enough time to also sell the company. Not only you are assessing the candidate is also assessing you, especially when it comes to senior hires. Do not forget that you are pitching the company too. Which brings me to takeaway number 4, always pitch. Every conversation is an opportunity to pitch the organization. You can imagine yourself a little bit as founders like a one-hit wonder, singing the same song on repeat. I know it is quite draining, but you want to sing the same song on repeat. Don't forget that you will have people that are joining. You will have people that, you learn through repetition. So getting the other people to learn and internalize your pitch, you just have to keep singing the same song. Takeaway number 5, excellent candidate experience. I can recommend measure your candidate experience, your candidate net promoter score, and improve the process. So, measuring is only the first half of it. You also have to improve it. There's no point in just measuring it and then putting your hands into your laps and then either complain or say, God bless, it's great. We have 4 out of 5. Yeah, but how can you get the 5 out of 5? You want to measure it. You want to have a net promoter score for your candidates, and always keep on asking. And again, this is not to get your recruiter into trouble or whoever is running that process, but rather to focus on the process and to improve it. Takeaway number 6, diversity and inclusion is the starting point. Integrate intersectionality into your recruitment. So looking at these aspects of race, gender, class, age, ethnicity, disability status, sexual orientation, religion, these are all things I would recommend looking into, and having a real diverse team will make your company, the whole organization, benefit from getting different viewpoints at different levels. So this is also something when it comes to diversity, and you say, okay, we have 50% of the staff is female, but you don't have one manager who's a woman, that's pointless. You want to have also managers that are women, and not only in HR and marketing, but also in other areas. I'm being very, very frank here, because it is a huge issue that if you look at the diversity, it is at the lower levels of the ranks of the company, but you want to have that also at the higher ranks of the company. So how can you ensure that? How can you create a company culture that fosters that welcomes that, and that also pushes that type of inclusion across the entire company? Retention. Dig into compensation, clarity, context, consistency. Those are the 3 C's. I'm trying to make these things as easy digestible as possible, and so that you can keep it in your mind. That's why I've broken it down in these very clear and concise takeaways. Dig into compensation. An issue that a lot of companies run into after the first year, 1.5 years, is the whole compensation is a mess. You have people with the same titles earning totally different amount of money, some a lot more, some a lot less. As soon as they find out, things get ugly. The people feel treated unfairly. Worst case, you don't even find out about it. People are just leaving silently, or the work ethic starts lagging. So clarity. In an ideal scenario, you want to have it as clear as possible for the employee, that they know why they are at what level and what is the next level. That leads into context. What is the next level and what do they have to do to achieve that, and why they're not yet there, or what they have to do to achieve that. Consistency is also very important. People need congruency. This is something I will speak about also a little bit later, just to ensure that things are not random and they feel that it's just favoritism that is the basis for that. Tailor rewards and recognition to your specific culture. Custom tailor your systems and processes so that they are in service of your culture and values. What are we trying to accomplish? What are our values? How do we live up to them? It's supposed to be there. This also, you want your rewards and recognition to be specific to your culture. What I'm trying to say with that, not every company, when you have somebody who comes in and says, oh, in my previous company, I used to have this and this amount of bonus, or this is how it used to work in that company. Welcome openly the feedback that your team member gives you, but you don't have to copy and paste it. On the contrary, where when you're coming from another company and you may be thinking, oh, this is something that I want to establish in my company, always think, does it serve the purpose? Does it serve the culture and the values? Because there's no one size fits all silver bullet where you can just copy and paste it. So there was, for example, a company that I spoke to, recruiters actually, and they do not have individual bonuses. They have only team bonuses, and that fosters a culture of collaboration, because they came from a background that had very sharky mentality, to say in diplomatic phrasing. It was not a nice environment, very salesy, and she didn't want to have that. So she founded her own recruitment agency. And, instead of just placements, it's an RPO model, as I mentioned initially, what I was saying, which is very successful. And then having team bonuses instead to ensure people work together and collaborate. Talk about the hard stuff. Common tendency, avoiding the thorny subtopics, but you want to go where the pain is. You want to create a culture of open feedback. You want to fail quickly and learn fast. Don't blame people, rather create or fix the process. So this is something that is really key. You want to have a mindset of open feedback and a mindset of iterations, where you say, okay, something failed. Why did it fail? How can we change it? Believe and trust in your people and create an environment. Especially in startups, you're super dependent on single people that have a huge impact on your business. You want to have an open feedback culture. So these are one of the benefits of working in such an environment. So you want to create an environment of people that really cherish and celebrate this open feedback culture, so that you can repetitively say, you know what, may I give you feedback? But of course, you have to lead by example as founders and HR people. You have to lead by example. So you can't start giving people, excuse my French, you can't give them shit for something that got messed up. You have to say, okay, you know what happened? Why did it happen? Don't blame the individual, but rather analyze, ask the person to analyze the process and how you can improve things, rather than blaming the individual on why things didn't work out or were not as fast or as efficient or as effective as you imagined it to be. Retention takeaway number 4, internal and external. Internal experience and narrative must match mission, vision, and external communication. As already pointed out initially, focus on why you're here, what you're doing, why it matters, how you operate, and decisions you make. So one thing that I've realized is very often, as I said, they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. So you must really ensure that if the company cannot live up to the standard, the values, the mission that you have defined, that you address that, and that you find out why that is the case, and that you speak about it. So you see these takeaways, they kind of merge into each other's as they are complementary to each other. Takeaway number 5, reframe career growth properly. And a challenge that you have in a small company in the beginning, especially, is trying to present career trajectory. So you have flat hierarchies versus career trajectories. If you have two hierarchy levels, then that may be appealing to some people, but after half a year or a year, if the person is in there, they'll ask like, okay, where is my career growth? What can I do next? Because there's my supervisor / my manager, and then there's the founder. So reframing that into working with new people, working with new environment, working with new products, all of this is growth and development. So you can, for example, if you have a developer and they focus on the back end, then trying to make them focus on architecture, or try to make them focus more on front end stuff. Looking at database, looking more at a data focused role. So creating a narrative as defining that as career growth can help make people understand that, yes, there is development, and it does not necessarily have to come with a fancy title or bonus, but you can frame it in a way that you can explain to them, this is the growth that I see you grow into, or this is the need that we have, and you have mentioned that this is something that you're interested in. Takeaway number 6, what qualifies you to be a good manager, and where are rooms for improvement? And this is not just me saying this. This is me addressing you as a person. Yes, what qualifies you in being a good manager? You should ask yourself this hard question, because most of us, we know where we have our weaknesses and where we have room for improvement. So learn how to manage, teach how to manage, also, and then teach how to manage your manager. One company that I worked in, a CEO who was a very challenging, dynamic character. He had actually a 3-page PDF on how to work with the CEO. And that was a little piece of advice. For me, there was not much that I learned out of it, but for a lot of junior and mid-level people who don't have experience working with, what's the right word? With a CEO who's a special kind. I don't want to say too much, but it was a little guide that would help the people to learn how to deal with him. So I'm not recommending that you do that, but just be critical about it. Think about it. What makes you a good manager? And even more, where do you have room for improvement? Recruitment and retention takeaway number 7, golden number 7, expectation management during the employee life cycle. so the main reason you can't hire somebody / why they leave is because their expectations are not met. So there are different ways to phrase that, but usually that is the main reason why people leave. Some way, shape, form, or another, their expectations were not met and they're disappointed. So make sure that expectation management is key during the whole employee life cycle. Questions, and I have no idea how I'm doing with the time, to be honest, but happy to have an open discussion to all of these points.
Yeah, I mean, so the questions are already coming in and they're in the chat box, but we're gonna have to go through to Troy and Harris point first, and then everyone is gonna, the questions are ready for everyone. I'll get it to everyone in the chat box. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you so much, Shirai. That was actually very interesting, and I was agreeing with a lot of things that you were saying because it's actually very true. It's funny. I hope that the founders don't feel attacked, because I think this is some conversations that need to be had, especially from, I remember when I talked about this with like some of the speakers, and one of the things we agreed and we said is sometimes the HR people work for the boss, not for the team, not for the company. They will only work for the boss. And because they do that, they forget that it's actually, there's a significant amount of like people management as well as cushioning the boss as well. And if you don't have a HR manager, it's also important to note some of these things are potential reasons that you are having, not to say that there are team members that cannot be, in quote, disgruntled, and not for lack of availability, but because they just want to be weird. It just means that these are things to pay attention to. And I'm hoping that founders are not feeling attacked. Instead, they're just seeing that these are some of the loopholes that might be happening in their companies. Just without much ado, just go straight to Trey and Harriet to end this before we go to the question.
Can I just add one last bit? Just
yes, you can,
regarding the founders. One thing that is very true in my observation is, and I really mean this not to attack any founders, but the weakness of the founder becomes the weakness of the company. So if the person is unstructured and flaky, then that becomes the weakness of the company because it trickles down. If the weakness is, being too detail oriented because that person demands it, then that trickles down. So being aware of that, just being self-critical about it, and awareness, being self-aware about this, really helps to create an environment that does not translate to an overall company challenge.
Lovely. Okay, so Trey and Harriet, you guys have the floor, please.
Thank you so
Over
much.
to you.
Thank you, Shirai. Thank you, Ton, and thank you, team, for kickstarting this.
Harriet, can you speak up a little bit? Because I feel like your volume is a bit low.
Sorry, guys. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Great. So this is a good place to even start, because we have had a chance to understand how do you strategize, how do you think about your culture, how do you really think about the retention element. And one of the things that I would really want to talk about when it comes to the recruitment process is looking at it from now the customer part, which is really the talent part. And this conversation, we're supposed to talk about technical recruitment, and definitely we are talking about challenges of finding talent. And as you're all coming from technical businesses, you're all aware about this tech war, the tech crash that is happening across the ecosystem, where we are finding companies like your Microsoft are employing thousands of employees a year in Egypt, for instance, or really providing all these value propositions that ensure that means then that.
All right, I'm so sorry. I know that you sound great. Just a little bit of volume. I don't know if it's if it's just me or just a little bit of volume, a little bit, just a little bit. Not to shout, but still.
No worries, no worries. Just keep me posted. I'll come closer to my mic so that then.
Okay. I think Tony's on the same page with me. So Tony, just nod your head if you're hearing her.
Okay.
No, I could hear her. I could actually hear her.
Okay, you could. Okay, lovely. Okay. I think it's just me then. All right. Sorry, carry on.
Thank you.
Just in case it was just me. I wasn't.
Okay, great. So I will come with a thesis around sales. I am coming from very much sales background. So that is essentially, as you all have businesses that are bringing in customers in the millions, one of the things that you have figured out is your sales process. And in the sales process, there's a customer journey, and you very much understand your customers. You map out the journey that they are going through when it comes to consuming your product. You know how to attract them, you know how to convince them, you know how to convert them, you know how to retain them. And the same rhythm that you have with your customers is the same rhythm you need to have with your talent, especially as you highlighted technical talent, which is harder to find, very, as we know, have a shorter lifespan, given how they are very much competitive in the ecosystem, and of course have higher costs of both a wrong hire, but also cost when it comes to the time it takes to hire for a good hire or good talent. And with that in mind, one of the things that really stands out when you look at the sales processes is that we are very much aware of our customer pain points. We know how to, we have done a lot of research on our competitors so that we're able to offer our value proposition to our customers. We know how to convince them through trial, we have even trial periods or trial runs. We're able to give them our products for free so that they can experiment with it. And we're even able to give them case studies so that they have successes that they can be able to leverage when it comes to making a decision whether a product is a fit for you. We know even how to bring our customers back through coming up with new products so that we're able to tap into the market that we're looking at. Now, with the same strategy, and this is something that has been highlighted across all the conversation, where culture is your product as a company, and the employees or the talent are the consumers of your culture. And one of the things that stands out is that the overall talent experience or the candidate experience or the candidate journey is the true product that you're offering to the consumers who are the talent. And that's what they're searching for when they're coming to your organization. That's what you're offering as a value proposition when it comes to seeing why you versus your competitor is the right fit for that particular talent pool. Now, with that in mind, then everything really changes when it comes to how you're handling your recruitment processes. If you were to leave your entire sales to be inbound, a lot of us would be struggling because, we have to go out there, get the data that we need so that we're able to convince people by providing content marketing, providing demo calls even, so that we're able to walk through our customers through the process of consuming our products. So similarly, when you come to the other side of the talent processes, there's the 4 aspects, which is attracting talent, convincing talent, which is very much closely related with converting, and also retaining talent. So I'll be focusing more on the first 2, which is the top of the funnel, or the top and middle of the funnel. And then I'll let Trey focus on the other 2, which is recruiting and which is converting and retaining the technical talent. So with that in mind, let's focus on the focal points, which is the top of the funnel. One of the things that we have talked about across the board is that it's a red ocean. Everyone is fighting for the same CTOs. Everyone is fighting for the same senior engineers. Most of our companies, we are using the same frameworks. So definitely it means that even in terms of your demand, the demand is higher than the supply, as we all know, in terms of the top talent that you're looking for. And attracting is where we have found, based on the customers we're working with, is where we lose our ground when it comes to our competitiveness. So we constantly talk about, there isn't talent, asterisk. Some of them, there isn't talent. But sometimes when you talk to the talent, they don't know about the companies, right? So they only know about companies that are promoting the employer brands. Most of the time they have more money. So that means that they're in all billboards, they're in all shows. They know so much about your Safaricoms or your telecoms. And as a result, they will be going there for inbound, right? So they will be on the run to get these conversations going as the talent themselves. But us as startups, or the companies that we work with, most of them are young startups, whether that's growth stage organizations that are in their 4th or 5th year, figuring out a niche market that are looking at exploring. One of the things that we really need to really look at is employer branding. And I think Sharai mentioned a little bit about that when it comes to employer branding. And that's where emphasis should be, especially when it comes to recruiting for technical talent, because we talked about this, the best talent is already hired. So, they're not looking for the next job, just like as your customer is not, when they see a product, they don't just buy it, they buy it when they have a need. So how do you create that need? How do you understand all the pain points of this particular customer who is your senior engineer, so that you're able to address it through content marketing, for instance? So for some of the companies we've been working with, we've been leveraging Wednesday promos, we call them Wednesday promos, through our email marketing campaigns to really focus on that. We are highlighting some of these aspects of the culture, the mission, some of these aspects and perks outside the transactional recruitment element to get people excited, because as we said, we are creating the demand for them to leave the company, so that they're excited for the next move with this company that they just realized and found that it's exciting because of the products they're building, the impact that they're curating around. And as a result, they're interested in converting in 6 months. So as you can see, and this was talked about again, most of us, when you're coming to recruitment, because we fail on our recruitment planning, we are looking for senior engineers yesterday. We come to recruiters and tell them, I'm looking for talent yesterday. But then that talent is not looking for a job. They're not going to leave today. So they're going to take 4 months, 3 months. And they also have like legal processes within the company to ensure that they're not just randomly leaving the company. So this process of recruitment marketing should be continuous. You're constantly talking about your employer branding and value proposition. You're having a chance to speak about, again, remember your customers, you're understanding the pain points, you're providing value to this customer, you're providing all these instances of, you talked about it in terms of things like resources that you should think about when it comes to improving your skill sets in a specific aspect. What is the value proposition you're providing them? Just like you think about your customers, that's how you need to think about your talent and your tech pool specifically. As a result, then it becomes interesting because you're all sitting on a database of professionals, whether that's your ATS systems, whether that's your website, where you're collecting all this information. Remember, you're also constantly doing a lot of recruitment, so you know your candidates. But then the challenges is where you only remember them when you're recruiting for a role. And that's where the process of content marketing, creating a community, becomes even more important. And that's where really this aspect of, just like you are sitting on your customer database and you're constantly building campaigns, then how can you build campaigns that are able to build that demand that you're sharing, so that you're getting people excited about the mission of the company whenever you close some of this big news, instead of like, I mean, it's important to think about your investors first, but then you send it to your first team members who are present, but also prospective team members, so that then you're getting excited about the prospect of being part of your company. So that's again, comparison between your sales strategy and your talent strategy. Now, the convincing part is where it becomes exciting, because when you're convincing our customers, as we highlighted, we have trial runs, we have demo calls where we take through our customers through our entire product, where we get them to try a product for 3 months without payment. And that's innovativeness that we thought through when it comes to the sales processes, so that we're able to get customers to trust that we're able to provide them the value that they're looking for. We're able to build that relationship that needs to be done so that they can sign the contract at the end of the day. And similarly with your talent, as you're providing them the right type of content, how are you convincing them? And I think one of the things that stands out whenever I think about technical talent is really those aspects of 2 sides. One, your existing technical talent within the team. One of the companies we have been working with has been curating content. Again, the employer branding, where we talked about how aspects of your top talent is the best recruiters. So what are the experiences? A lot of people are able, yes, your technical talent is writing code on GitHub or doing all these different aspects on LinkedIn. So how are they able to talk about the experiences as talents within your organization? Because that's how this particular software engineer is going to think about themselves. They're going to put themselves in the shoes of this particular designer in the team and think about how the entire experience will be closely or similarly related, just like the case study that you have for your customer. And additionally, on the other side, which is interesting in terms of an experimental aspect of it, we have demo trials for our customers where they're able to try out a product for 3 months. And most of the time, whenever we're thinking about technical assessments, we provide technical assessments for projects that might not even be, we are thinking about them, maybe we put them several years on hold, or whatever strategies that you have within your technical assessment processes. We have seen customers approach us with a need for consultants, right? And they're looking for people to come in for a 3-month project, for instance. And that is a great way for you to start building a pipeline of people who are coming actually to work with your team for a 3-month consultation process. They don't have to leave their job. They can be freelancing. Again, the challenges there is the challenges of data privacy and all these different aspects that you have to think about. But that is a two-way process, because the potential employee is able to experience the team culture. The team culture is one thing when it's put on a content or in a pitch deck, but it's something else when they experience it. And when they're able to experience it through something that they're actually able to work with a team, whether that's, most of the companies are going lean with different projects so that they're able to ship their products in time. As a result, you're also able to see how they are working with you, and you're able to even convince them further. And as a result as well, you're getting a return of investment, because most of the time we see companies approach us and tell us that the biggest challenge they're facing is attrition of talent, especially within the first 3 to 6 months when they join the company because of performance issues or culture misfit. So when you have some of this consultancy to full-time processes, then you're able to really embark on that quotation mark free trial, especially with technical roles, because at the end of the day, the product or the development stands out as the output of that engagement. So with these two aspects, which is how do you attract talent, thinking about how you attract your customers, what are the processes that you have within your company to focus on some of this, as we highlighted, red zones when it comes to highly competitive market sizes that we're exploring, so that you're able to think about the pain points of that particular customer, in this mind, that software engineer. What are the challenges that they're facing? Maybe some of the things that they're facing is lack of flexibility. So you're able to offer a value proposition of the flexibility within your workforce. The challenges that we have been doing a lot of surveys with professionals, and these are the things that stand out. We did one to ask them, why would you decide to take an offer from one company as opposed to the other? And some of the things that stood out were professional development, which was heavily articulated by Sharai, and the same. Things about culture, again, that is very important, especially when it comes to like your mid to senior level professionals that you need within the workforce. And then these other aspects when it comes to the team itself, like people want to know, what type of team they'll be working with. And the number 6 one was salary. So it's interesting how even though money is important, it becomes like a number 6 priority as they think about all this work environment and the people in it and my prospect of growing. So with that in mind, then it really becomes important for you to think not from your company perspective, but from the talent that you're targeting. Just like you think about your customer whenever you're drawing out that strategy document, or when you're marketing, coming up with marketing campaigns. What are the pain points in every single part of their life cycle? And as a result, you really get the right type of data. You're able to pick up data from your candidates who are applying. You're asking, just as we highlighted in terms of like asking, how was the process? Did you enjoy the process? Were you able to connect with the team? Because all those insights will help you understand all these data points that can help you with your strategies, so that you're able to know what your strengths are. When you're having conversations with your team and helping, because as we say, they're the best brand ambassadors, and these are the people that you need for your successful case studies, just like you do with your customers. Then you're able to really navigate that aspect of helping them talk about the experiences, such that now the professionals that will be coming on board or prospective hires are much more interested in that aspect. So what I really want to emphasize here is that your company culture is the product that you're offering to any type of talent that is coming on board, and the way you're able to market it, they're able to provide a value proposition. The processes that you think about in terms of that sales funnel or marketing funnel is a similar aspect and very much relatable. There's a lot of research that has been done on sales processes. There's a lot of tools that exist. When it comes to the people operations, that's where we miss that connection, which is where I'm here to emphasize that it's the same people you're selling to. Our customers our talent is behaving like customers. They want that level of interaction and attention we give to our customers. The type of one-on-one sessions that we think about our customers, that's what the potential hires are looking for. Because at the end of the day, when they can't find an answer on that website, just like your customer will just show up to the next shop, right? Because they are not finding what they're seeking for. So think about your customer experience, think about your talent experience, the life cycle from when they started applying to the job until they left. Because that's still a process. And as I highlighted with technical talent, as you have all had a chance to experience it, have a shorter life cycle. So if it's a 2-year life cycle that you have with your technical team, what are you able to build upon that 2-year life cycle And this is where I would like Trey to really focus on in terms of recruiting processes and retaining, because as a result, that's really what the culture is that you're building. That's the value proposition that you're offering to potential hires. So that's it on my side for now. I'll let Trey continue on the other bottom of the funnel approach. So Trey.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Harriet. And yeah, thank you everybody for speaking and providing insights ahead of time. I will leave my camera on for my video, but we'll be speaking into my phone. So just to clarify that. So jumping into from where Harriet left off, a lot of what I'm saying is very simple. You might say, Trey, this is so simple. And it is simple, but it's oftentimes very absent. Based off our experiences of talking with different companies and hearing about their processes, not just in East Africa, but in other regions as well. Some of these, or many of these processes are in place, but oftentimes you'll find them absent as well. And so when it really comes to recruiting, particularly retaining top talent, I want to break this down into two different categories. The first is the mindset that you have when it comes to hiring, which is more of a strategic point that others have touched on, but then also some of the actual operational or implementation type of strategies or actions that you can take in order to make sure that once you have brought this top talent in, or once you finally have that top salesperson, or in this case, the CTO or whatever type of talent that you're looking for, you can make sure that they stay in your organization. And so the very first point that I want to make, and which others have touched on, but I really want to emphasize, is that the hiring process does not stop when the candidate has showed up for their first day of work, or when the employee has showed up for their first day of work. It is a very continuous process. And this is something that, once again, is very simple. But if you forget it, it can have tremendous effects on your company. And so in Chinese, actually, there's a saying or a phrase called a 空欢喜, which literally means an empty joy, or an empty happiness, which means you celebrate too early. And so one way to avoid this type of celebration too early is to really remember that the hiring process continues after the person has come into the organization, and starting from there. The second point in terms of mindset is, oftentimes people will come to us, or when we're talking with different companies, they will say, how does top talent stay in the organization? How does top talent not leave the organization? And instead of phrasing the question or phrasing the challenge in that way, a better way to frame it, and once again, a very small change, but still very important, is what can I do, or what can our organization do, or what can we do as an organization to make sure that top talent stays in the organization? So of course, there are going to always be external factors that are outside of your control, but there are also a lot of factors that are in your control, or factors that are in the control of the organization, or the company, or the startup, which, instead of putting the onus on the talent, it actually puts the onus on the company, and puts the onus on you as a founder to make sure that you are doing your best to make sure that people stay in the organization. And so, going on to that, I think one of the top things that a company can do is to be visible. Be visible, and not just for the company to be visible, but for the culture of the company to be visible. This is really good in terms of bringing people into the organization, but it's also very good in terms of retaining talent, because everybody wants to be part of a really good organization, a really good brand, a company that has a really, really good mission. And it's important to propagate that and to make that popular and well-known across your space and beyond. And one of the reasons why at AfriJob we're really emphasizing employer branding and making it a key component is because too often we just see companies lose out on top talent, not necessarily because of anything the company is doing, but the way in which the company is perceived by other candidates. whether that just be them being unknown. For example, maybe you have somebody who isn't in the startup space, they have all the right skills, but they're not in the startup space, and they're open to a career transition. But just because they do not, they've not heard of your organization, or you have not been visible enough, they'll immediately dismiss you as an organization that is not, in their eyes, worth working for, despite the fact that you have an incredible mission, an incredible vision, an incredible culture for your company. And so it's really important to keep always projecting that culture, projecting that vision, and using platforms, or using other partners or tools to make sure that you are able to do so. It's also important to keep in mind that a startup's most powerful asset oftentimes is its story. For all the founders that are on this call, I'm sure you all have incredible stories, but outside of your organization, who knows those stories? Who is really motivated or excited about the story of your organization? Is it well known enough? As humans, as Homo sapiens, it's literally hardwired into our systems to be enthralled and enticed by stories, and it's one of the things that have really allowed for us over time to reach the point where we are. And this is not just true on kind of like outside of the workspace, but it's very, very important within the workspace as well. Like if you go to Phil Knight's autobiography, Shoe Dog, he talks about how at Nike, they are always hearkening back to the history. And this is something that is key in making sure that the people who are in Nike, who are really good, still want to stay there beyond the benefits, beyond the salary, beyond any of these things. When they walk down Michael Jordan Avenue, or they're walking down Prefontaine Hall, they're reminded of all of the great moments in Nike's history. And you might say, oh, we don't have the 40-year history that Nike has. But I'm sure in the 3, 5, 7 years that you've been in existence, there have also been incredible moments, whether it be your first fundraise, or closing a big customer, or making a big decision, or getting a big partner, things that are really worth celebrating. And these are things that really hold an organization together. And once you have somebody inside of your organization, are you hearkening back to these big moments, these monumentous moments, or these monumental moments in your organization's history, that kind of projects where you are going, and just getting people excited about what you're doing. And so it's just really important from a mentality standpoint to make sure that for the ability to retain talent for the future, you have to oftentimes harken back to the past and make that well known across the organization. We'll also talk about salary, but we'll in being realistic in that aspect, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, in terms of what you can actually do, let's say you have this mentality, you want to make sure that top talent stays in your organization, you want to make sure that top tech talent stays in your organization. What can you actually do? So there's what I'm about to say. A lot of people might think of it as a disastrous or a horrible type of move, but time and time again, it's been proven to alleviate some of the difficulties that Shirai was talking about when it comes to the expectations that candidates have. And there's an okay book called Love 'Em or Lose 'Em, written by Beverly Kay. And the one of the best takeaways from this book is that they recommend that within the first 3 to 6 months of bringing somebody on board, going back to continuing the hiring process after this person has been brought on board, within the first 3 to 6 months, you conduct what is called a stay interview. And so what a stay interview is just that. You set up an interview. It's not a performance review. It's not a quarterly review. It's nothing like that. If you think that this is somebody who is going to be a very good asset in the organization, or going to be a great team player in the organization, you just ask them, what do we need to do to make sure that you stay in the organization? Or what do we need to do to make sure that you continue being a part of this organization? And so before you say like, oh, that's too direct, that's too much of a challenge to the status quo, you have to realize that people are already thinking about this type of stuff. And so it's really important for you to make sure that you are understanding what the expectations are of people in your organization, so that you're able to have them stay. And so just ask yourself, when was the last time that I asked somebody in my organization, especially a top tech person? As Harriet was mentioning, it's quite a candidate's market when it comes to tech talent. So ask yourself, when is the last time that I spoke with my top dev, when I spoke with my CTO, when I spoke with my head of data science, and asked him or her, what do we need to do to make sure that you stay here? And even if let's say they want a salary increase, even if you cannot provide that at the time, people are oftentimes appreciative of the gesture, and may also want other things that are non-monetary that can be given. So, for example, that could easily be wanting to have off on their birthday, or working from home, or some of these other aspects that can be more easily implemented beyond just the monetary aspect. So if you're unable to provide on the monetary side, always ask what else can be done if we're unable to meet your salary expectations or anything like that. But as Shirai was talking about, people are going to be discussing things like salaries with their teammates, or with their coworkers, and they're going to be having these discussions anyway. So it's just good for you as a leader and as a founder to also be involved in that conversation, so that you are not you're not blindsided when some of your top people just end up leaving. And then the third and final part that I'd like to talk on goes to mentality, but it also goes to action. So you can, in the late Steve Jobs often talked about how important it was to have top people in the organization. And so in our experience, we've seen kind of two different type of organizations when it comes to hiring. You have companies that really want to make sure that they only have top, you could say A players the entire time. Or you could have companies that maybe want to have a diverse set of people. Maybe have a few really good people, some average people, and some below average people. And this comes to the culture of the organization, what your mentality is in the organization. But it's important to keep in mind two key you could say two key theories when it comes to this. The first is called the Rockstar Principle, which comes from a study that was done in the 1960s in a basement in California, where they took several computer engineers, and they had them work on several tasks. And so the premise, what the people who were conducting the study suspected, was that the difference between a top engineer and an average or below average engineer would just be 2 or 3 times. But what the results of the study ended up proving was that actually the difference between someone who was average, like a solid engineer, but just average, and someone who was at the top of doing all the tasks, who was the top of the field, was actually somewhere between 20 and 30 times. And so when it comes to retaining top people in the organization, you do have to be asking yourself, for the type of roles that I am hiring for, especially for some of these tech or more creative roles, do I want to have maybe fewer people? And this goes to budget and salary. Do I have fewer people who may actually be able to do more? Or do I have a wider range of people who may not be able to do as much, though they are doing though there are technically more people on the team. And so it's also just important to keep in mind that to retain the best people in your organization, they also want to be surrounded by people who are, we also want to be surrounded by people who are very good and at their same skill level. And so a classic case of this is that in the United States, there's an organization called National Public Radio. And the culture of National Public Radio is very much one that does not emphasize so much rock stars as much as it does just making sure that everybody has a good time in the organization. But the consequence of that is that time and time again, National Public Radio or NPR has lost a lot of its top talent because the top talent was not getting the, this is specifically in terms of tech talent or engineering, the top talent is not surrounded by or does not have the challenge that is brought with having other people of their same caliber. And so though the NPR really wants to make sure that everybody really wants to make sure that the organization grows and everything like that, it's difficult because oftentimes the top talent is leaving due to some of these challenges. And so yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to when it comes to retaining talent. The key takeaway is just that you cannot think that the process is over. Constantly engage with your all of your team, but especially the top people on your team, your top tech talent especially, to make sure that you are meeting their expectations, because those conversations are going to be happening whether or not you are in the room. And then lastly, try to surround good talent with other really good talent, because people may also leave for non-monetary reasons if they're not being challenged or don't feel as though they have the right team members around them. So yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Gonna turn it again. Okay, so my internet tried to do me dirty, but it's okay. This was such an interesting chat. I feel like there were like 1 million questions that wanted to be asked. Megan, you're still here. I know you asked the question to Shirai, and I know that, where is William? I don't know if William is still here. William asked the question to Tom and Abraham. So if you guys can just re-ask your questions. I'm gonna start with you, Megan, because I'm just gonna dive right into, my gosh, you guys. I don't know if there's still Q&A at this point because we've just touched on topics. And then even when I wasn't even trying to do that. So William says at early stage, when would take that again? No, we did. Yeah. At early stage, when recruits come on to wear multiple caps, how do you effectively measure performance? That's what Tom.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Williams. Great question. So I think one of the ways you can do it, with the OKR, you can measure different things or different objectives and then have key results tied to those objectives. So at the early stage, you can assign the different areas that they are meant to be working on into objectives and have key results that drive those objectives. The one thing I would say that it has to be everyone who's in at that stage has to be very clear on the expectations and the fact that the expectations can be very varied, and see how they can tie that into their roles. So that's what I would ask you to use. Have those different objectives, make them understand the different expectations, and then tie different key results to the different objectives or the different areas that you'd be assessing them on.
Okay. Okay.
I hope
so much. Yeah, he says okay. He says thank you. So there is Charles Dyrod asked as well. Tom, what are the key things to look for when hiring the first set of employees in an early stage startup?
Okay, this is a bit tough, because at that point, what's happening is that you want few people to do everything that you have. But the first thing I would say is someone that buys into the vision. And I will give an example. So it's, people always say, what does that mean, buy into the vision? But for you, Charles, I'm not sure which company because I know you from the past, but I don't know if that's the same company. But what I would say, so for example, when I was looking to work for a company a couple of years ago, and they had just put something out, and everyone was sending their CVs. So I went a step further, and I did a short video of about 4 minutes, because I wasn't in Nigeria at the time, and I wanted my video to speak for me, while others, because a lot of people were going for physical interviews. But one thing I did that I think got them sold on me was that I said to them, this is the problem I think you're looking to solve. This is who I think you're trying to become. And this is how I fit into answering those problems where people are concerned. So I think it's not just people saying, oh, I like your vision, or I like the mission that you have, but it's them being able to understand that problem that you have and see how the role that they're jumping into can fit into that problem. A second thing I would say is someone who has varied skill sets, because at that point, at the early stage, people are doing everything. Even people in HR, and I'm sure Abraham can agree with me, at this point, if he's hiring anyone because of what CareerBuddy does, they have to do content, they have to be sharp and know how to recruit, they have to do everything. So at this point, you don't want someone who's going to come and say, look, that's not my job. I was hired to do finance and that's all I'm doing. You have to understand that you're working for an early stage startup and be ready to work in that environment. Yes. So in that case, look for someone who has a different skill set and is looking to, channel those different skill sets into the different things that you have.
Oh my gosh, my bosses are not on this call. My God, where are they? My bosses are not on this call. Wow.
Vanessa, can I add something?
Yes, you can, of course.
I was just going to add to what Tone said, that for, I think, not just for our clients, but even for us as a business, one of the things that we look for is, we're very particular about intelligence. And I know it's like cliche, but like Google search before. I think that Tone mentioned problem solving. You want people who are intelligent people and people who can problem solve. They can grow with you. You have a lot of things you're going to be doing. Actually, even you as a founder, the majority of your problems majority of what you're doing every day is you're solving problems. You're putting out fires, and you want people who are. I know intelligence is broad in how you define it, but you want people who exercise good judgment. They can look at an issue, know the best way to solve it. You want people who take initiative, who can. You don't want people who say, I need the boss to tell me what to do before I can do it, right? People who can say, we talk about in the weekly stand-up or in the all hands, this is the vision, this is what the problems we're trying to solve this week, this is what we're working on, and people who can take on those kind of things, even outside what they're doing, not people who are like, oh, just give me, a list of what you want me to be doing. You want people who can sort of replace you in something so that you can focus on doing other things, right? I would say, even personally for me, I look for those kind of people. It's very difficult to find them. Find intelligent people, not just like people who are good at passing tests or they finish your first pass, is one of the most difficult things you can do. But if you found the right person, it gives you a lot of room to grow them into whatever needs you have in the company.
I would say that we're using the word intelligence very willy-nilly, to be honest. Because I think at the end of the day, okay, Sharai wants to say something. Go, Sharai.
Yeah, so adding to what the two speakers said and what you said, there are different types of intelligence. So what you want to look at is somebody who has entrepreneurial intelligence. So they can look beyond their team, beyond their department, and have a fair good grasp and understanding, so that a simple example, an HR person can look at the marketing material and say, you know what, we should include A, B, C, D, because this is important for employer branding, and how can marketing and HR work together in the aspect of employer branding. Just a random example, because this is obviously our field of expertise, where you have somebody, that is, again, taking HR as an example, that has a HR generalist approach, that can do recruitment, but also knows how to write a couple of policies, knows a little bit of legal framework and stuff like that, so that there is a more broader understanding. And the same goes for every different role that will be hired. It should be a jack of all trades that can cover multiple different aspects, have an overall entrepreneurial understanding, and can also give feedback for other teams and areas, and say, you know what, I'm not the person, I'm actually the HR person, but I don't mind stepping in for customer service and building up that team and leading that team, because in the end, what I do is I serve my customers, who are my hiring managers. I'm just making something up, but you get the gist of it.
I think that at the end of the day, we're all alluding to the same thing, which is in terms of like productivity, and that's a word that, in all honesty, cannot necessarily be overemphasized in a business, especially in startups. And when we think about these things, it's almost like you're saying it from a point of view, you're expecting too much. That's why I was saying the word, I don't even know if the word is intelligence, to be honest. I mean, to be honest, I think that there's so many different parts to it, because when Troy was talking about the NPR and how there's someone sat down there and said, we want to be able to make things really like exponential in the business. And it made sense at the time, right? But then like there's a repercussional effect that people also don't factor in as well. And it's also seeing like, where can we tweak things? Where can we make things different? Sometimes people just sit there and say, you know what, no, for us, it's okay, let's tap out of that reality. And that's a thing that everyone says, okay, that works. But then sometimes it maybe doesn't. And then at the end of the day, bottom line for the business is a problem. So again, I think I'm just gonna ask other people's questions and not share my thoughts. Megan Aksharash says, can you talk more about the equity piece? We offer employees equity, but when it comes to negotiations, they also trade away equity for higher salary, especially at the junior level, especially at the junior roles.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I would think that is based, or that the reason for that is that they don't really understand the equity part. So maybe make it more clear to them what that would mean. Okay, if you have X amount of equity of the company at the current evaluation stage, looking at your next Series B, Series C, where you would aim for the valuation of the company X and Y, what the worth of that equity would be. So probably it is a mix of, as you mentioned, just junior people maybe not having this long-term period thinking. As you know, when you're fresh from university in your late teens, early 20s, who cares about what I will make or what money I have when I'm 40? That's basically, I'm already an old person, where I'm just randomly guessing most of us are already closer to the 40 than to the teens. That maybe the task there would be in a mix of seeing yourself responsible of trying to explain what the worth of that is. And also, I mean, if they're not interested in the equity, maybe it's not the right approach for that person. But in general, I would just flip the coin and say, okay, take the responsibility on yourself and try to explain what are the perks and benefits of having equity. Not only is it a way to express that these people are part of it, but just tell them, like, look, you are also an owner of this company. You run this place. If somebody asks you, you say, I am an entrepreneur. I have stake in this. That's a very different mindset than just being like, oh yeah, you basically own 0.1%. That's that chair and that desk. It's a different maybe a bit too simplified.
I think No, I don't think so. I think that there's a part, and this is the, my goodness. So when Trey was talking about
maybe
branding,
so sorry that I'm
go on.
interrupting. Maybe just to
No.
sum it up, make it emotional. I mean, pitch it from an
I
emotional.
was just about to say that. That's what I was just about to say. Because I was just about to say,
see
like,
it as
Trey
it's worth
mentioned
X
branding. How
amount
does
of money.
storytelling and
No,
branding
you're
come in?
selling an
Emotion.
idea. You're selling whatever mission and service you're selling, whatever solution problem you're solving. That solution. That is how I would pitch it. Yeah. Sorry.
No. I think we're both on the same page. Abraham, you have a question, which is, no, I'm serious. We're both on the same page. Which is, what are the key differences between a company like CareerBuddy and companies like Talent QL or Decagon? Do you partner with this company? This is from Charles. Do you partner with this company, or are they alternatives to CareerBuddy? I want to answer that question for you, but I'm going to let you do it.
So, thank you. I think one of the major differences that we support startups with hiring across all roles. So non-technical, technical. I think the larger percentage is mid to senior level roles. So if you're hiring even a co-founder, we can help you with that. Meanwhile, for example, of course, both Decagon and Talent Cure are specifically now focused on technical recruiting.
Does that answer your question, Charles?
Yeah, in terms of the second, do we partner with them? We work, I mean, with, for example, with Decagon, we help because we also have, we do also talent placement for engineering talent from Decagon to maybe US partners or Canadian partners. So for some of the other organizations that are training developers, we are able to connect some of their developers to some of our partners. So that's the point of collaboration.
Charles agrees. Thank you. I have a question for Harriet. So what do you do with, I know you talked significantly about like understanding, mirroring the importance of your talent side by side with what it would be like for a sales or your sales persona and like all of those things. So I'm going to ask a question regarding that. So when you have a non-returning customer, because I'm going to ask the question the way you framed it in terms of sending the idea to us, which is when you have a non-returning customer, which would probably be a staff that has decided that they've decided to leave, but then like you want them to come back, not for, there can be variant reasons for a non-returning customer, and we both know that. And we both know that. But the thing is, from a non-returning customer to convincing a non-returning customer, which is side by side at this point, a staff who, you know, maybe at the time, maybe you guys did not have the infrastructure to be able to navigate. But now you are better and you actually want that person to come back. How do you convince them to come back? Knowing fully well, it's not going to be, oh no, we've changed. We're no longer the same people you used to know before. Everything about us is different. Because, you know, I mean, well, here in Nigeria, they would tell you those words, and when you enter, it's still the same toxic boss that you used to work with. It's still the person you're still working with, and I would speak for founders when they say things like, sometimes even the character, maybe the person was really good at what they were doing, but they just had a really bad office culture. So, how do you navigate that? And again, I would mirror that side by side with when you also have a non-returning customer, but you know fully well that customer might have been a good customer, but just maybe terribly behaved. I don't know. How do you navigate that? That's my question.
That's a good question. And I think one of the things I can start off with is, you know, not every customer belongs to you. And there's definitely one of the things that I appreciate about how you look at recruitment and also how you look at your customers is that there are times you're not a fit. And if you're not a fit, it's okay. You know, there's definitely that an understanding of, you know, it's totally fine. There's misaligned priorities when it comes to that. And maybe before I can answer the question, I would definitely highlight something that we have also implemented within our organization, which is exit interviews. And exit interviews are good because you get to understand why people left. and why people are leaving, or why people are looking to leave, or leaving then left. So some of these questions that you're trying to navigate are, some of these things that hopefully they will say things like bad management. If they're more open and willing, that's where you're able to measure. If a customer really wants to come back, they'll tell you the reason I did come is because of the customer service, but I love your food, I love your product. I would stay for your product, but your customer service is very bad. So when you're having that exit interview, they say, I believe in the vision of the company. I truly want to be part of this, but I'm leaving because of that manager. I'm leaving because you don't listen to me whenever I propose things. Then that's really helping you with your culture assessment. And these are the questions that we're asking in terms of what are really highlighted in terms of really understanding why people are staying and why people are leaving. And with that aspect, you're able to really understand. And that's where now 2 years down the line, when this customer or this particular hire said they're leaving because my timelines maybe from different scenarios. Maybe someone says, I'm looking for a more stable job because I have a family, and therefore this startup life is not for me. And that's totally fine, because that's the journey that you're in. Of course, when you come 2 years later, you can definitely show that you're no longer in the startup phase, you're more in the growth stage phase, you have processes, you have repeat customers, you have this predictability. If someone left because of managerial challenges or the lack of processes or whatever that highlight is, then if you're able to come back to them and be like, we have created this buddy system within the company, you can even speak to some of the team members for that successful case study, so that you're able to see that the reason why you left, we are able to actually take your talking point and actually implement around it. And if the final part is like, they even don't come to that exit interview, they don't care about the company, because if someone really cared, they will sit down with you to tell you why they left. Just like your customer, if your customer really loves you and wants to be with you and just offering great feedback, and that's why we have feedback surveys, feedback forms, they'll really come to tell you that I would never recommend you to any of my friends because of 1, 2, 3. But if they don't even believe in your product, they will not even give you that response. They will block you in the mailing list, right? They'll report you. And that's the similar aspect that you need to also kind of like align in a case scenario aspect, because I feel like one of the things that I love about that comparison is you're dealing with humans at the end of the funnel, or the other end of the other side. And humans have feelings, and humans are sometimes unpredictable most of the time. So when you're able to really kind of like, and that's why the sales process are important, because you've already mastered sales. You send out thousands of leads, you're able to convert 100 customers. So that is a mastery of, handling people's psychology and handling your customers, that you can definitely take some of these learning lessons to your recruitment processes, because you're also dealing with human beings who have already preset values of what they're looking for. They're looking to be convinced otherwise, or whatever that case scenario that you have. So to answer your question, exit interviews as part of the strategy is important. Definitely recommend it. And if someone is not willing to give you that exit interview, they don't care about the company, it's good to know. It's a good sign. If they care about the company and they're willing to give you actual transparent reasons of why they left, and you're willing to listen, because that's a feedback session that most of us don't have a chance to hear, because we're so focused on KPIs. KPIs are good, but most of these are like one-way street of communication, as opposed to this double-edged or two-sided conversation where someone is telling you and actually doing a culture assessment of why your company, or what, something else that we're able to also during that exit stroke retaining interview, or kind of like that conversation that Trey was talking about, you're also able to say, this is what we told you we're going to offer you. Is it actually what you found? We say that our values are integrity. We say that our values are, is it actually true? And if people say, you're not even integrity, like you don't have any of these values, you're lying. And that's good information, because the people who are willing to sit down with you to tell you those reasons are great data points that you should leverage. So my final aspect of this is analytics is very important, and talent analytics is becoming a very much important part of the strategies that people operations are building up around. And all these different things we have incorporated very well with our customers. We know our conversion rates when it comes to our funnel. We know our time to close deals. We know all these different insights, because we record them very well and very clearly within our Excel documents or CRM systems. So similarly, what is your time to close deals when it comes to hires? What is that closing of a deal when it comes to people leaving in terms of exits. And when you're able to really track that data, just like you track your sales data, then you can be able to scale your talent. Because right now you're recruiting for 5 roles. Next year, you'll be recruiting for 15 or 20 roles. The next year, you'll be recruiting for 200 roles. And you not have a random system. Then you have been working through something that is repetitive, that has data insights around, so that you're able to scale the process, just like you're able to scale from your 10 leads to 100 to 1,000,000 leads. So that's my answer to your question.
I love that. I really do. And then I have a question for Tone, because this question is very, I don't know if it's, no, I don't think so, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. So here's the thing. I know fully well that I've worked in structured companies and I've worked in non-structured companies. So I know fully well that structured companies are not using myself as a point of contact because, again, I am only a minority in the equation. And I've learned that over time. However, so I'm going to ask you this, and that's because you work with people in culture. And I reckon that you have conversations with people and they will tell you the truth because you're not in quotes, HR. So the question will be, not, the reason I say you are not in quotes HR is because you don't work in their companies. So to them, they can tell you some of the things and they can be honest and sincere with you. One of the things I know fully well is people never be, everywhere I've worked and most of the people I've known have never been honest in exit interviews. They have been in exit interviews, but they have never been honest at exit interviews. Number one is, I do not want to burn bridges.
Yeah.
Number two is, even if I tell, it's not going to change anything because my word against, again, this is not a bash at founders. Again, it's just pretty much giving context so that they also know, like, these are some of the things to look out for, because you also want to be able to create, and I think it's one of the things that Trey was talking about, so like creating the culture where your company, even Abraham mentioned it, where your company is the company that everyone can express themselves, everyone can, do not work with the templates of a Netflix at a Standard Chartered.
Exactly.
I was just calling names, so I did not say anything happened in both companies. I'm just saying, do not work with the template of a Netflix at a Standard Chartered. I don't know how they work in Standard Chartered, but I reckon that they don't work the same way at Netflix. And I reckon there's a reason everyone looks at Google and says, oh my goodness, that's why I want to work there. They wear shorts and like slippers. And then like, we're coming and we can work like whatever timeline we want to work and things like that. Not understanding the structure of whether they use Trello to log in or they use X, Y, and Z to log out, and things like that. Obviously, those things. So again, my question to you is, alluding to what Harriet just said, is that a foolproof plan for how people can navigate when it comes to, because I don't want to say Harriet is in East Africa, so that's why, because I don't think that that's what it is. I think it happens anyway.
Yeah.
So would that be a thing would that be a determining factor to, like, find out solutions for what the breaking points are?
Sorry, do you mean at exit interviews? Is that the question?
Yes. Yeah. So focusing on exiting, because I'm alluding to the exit interview conversation. I know that I know what she meant, but I know that they never tell the truth. They always lie.
I'm quite big on conversations and tough conversations myself, but I'm not very keen on, I don't really think that people tell the truth at exit interviews. Even I wouldn't tell, 100% of the truth. I think Trey mentioned something about stay interviews. And I think stay interviews are probably more, you get a bit more truth from them. But there's something we do as well. So in terms of culture, we run culture clinics, and we group people in, we put people in different groups so that people then present things. But when we get to the behaviors, rituals, I think my kids and the kids in the estates have been let loose. So if you can hear any, noise, it's not animals, it's them, So what was I saying? So in terms of behaviors, norms, rituals, what you find is when you start doing things like start, stop, continue, you get a bit more truthful responses from that. And at that point, because it's almost anonymous, so people say, whatever it is. So what it is people are just putting things on, and then they stick it onto the board. But when it comes to stop, you find a lot of things come out from, stops like that. And then also we run run a few, sessions as well, where people send things, anonymously, and we have conversations anonymously, and then curate the top responses that are negative and then pass it on to founders. So there's nothing, you wouldn't know that it's, Grace, for example, who said it, or, Obinna who said it. But then that way you can get a bit more information, and the founders are there themselves as well. So in Stop, you hear lots of things. What should we continue? What should we start? And they start to pick things up, from there as well. But I would use, when people are still in the organization, over exit interviews. I think we do exit interviews, if I'm being honest, for the formality of not just saying bye, out the door. I think most times we do it just so that the person also feels like, we're speaking to you about, we're ending things in a nice, cordial way. But a few people say the truth in the exit interviews, but I assure you, there's still more that's not being said, even when they've said the horrible truth, Yeah. Sorry, next thing, another thing you can do. So with my team, Imisi's on, and we did this last week. You can do it as a fun learning, or brunch and learn, or whatever you lunch and learn, whatever you want to call it. But it's get them to analyze, one thing, what you're good at, what you're not so good at, and then how best people can work with you. So when I did that with my team, I got like 5 things of how I'm constantly coming up with ideas and just creating ideas, but just sending people all over the place. I'm constantly a dreamer. I got a lot of things, and I was like, goodness, is this all me? But I think when you do it in such a playful way, everyone's saying the truth about everyone without being horrible, but then they're also learning how best to work with people based on their personalities. I think those sorts of things help to bring out the truth more than what's bad about us, what should we, sorts of thing. I think
the floor.
Yeah,
his hand has been like right there.
Yeah, I just like to add on to what has previously been said, and I think it goes to that when you,
Right, it looks
look at the
weird that you have a talking voice here, and then like your face is like not moving here. You look weird.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Hopefully the connection restabilizes. But I think when we look at cultures of these companies that are known for being very open, whether it be like Netflix or a Google or a Walmart, it's important to understand that these cultures were deliberately created in that way. So if you are expecting, if you have, and there are some companies that also openly, like it is part of their culture that they are not very open. So if you if you have a culture that is pretty closed, or your philosophy around information is that it needs to be departmental and not very interconnected, then you can't really expect to get an honest interview, an honest exit interview, or to get honest feedback from your employees or from your teammates. For example, at Bridgewater, Ray Dalio records every meeting and makes that, even if it's the top senior management, they record every meeting and make it available to everybody in the organization, or a lot of people in the organization, which is a deliberate decision. And so it's because of the culture that's coming from the top, this culture of openness from Ray Dalio and the rest of the people who are at the top of Bridgewater, that when somebody is going to have an exit interview, or when somebody critiques the CEO or the CFO or whoever it may be, they know that they are not going to be punished for that, or they know that they're not going to be reprimanded. And so I think it's just important to keep in mind that as we craft our own cultures, we can't just expect that we're going to get some of these things overnight. They have to be deliberately crafted. You can just look at another just a quick example is that Walmart did something pretty revolutionary in the 1990s, where they made a lot of their financial information just openly accessible to everybody in the organization, whether you're a truck driver or whether you are one of the top like senior management. That's something that's pretty common in a lot of companies now. But back then it was a huge step in just increasing the transparency and the openness of Walmart as an organization. And so when it comes to like Walmart or Netflix or Google or Bridgewater or any of these companies. These are cultures that have been deliberately created and start from the top and then go down. And so it's not I'd say it's not clever to expect these type of changes to come from the bottom. They have to be deliberately created and come from the leaders of the world.
So I think that I would pretty much just run this up with just 2 questions, which is importance of team bonding and the relevance of town halls. We'll stop. Whomever wants to take it can take it. Tone, do you want to do it?
Could you please repeat the question?
Question,
I
yes.
said the importance of team bonding, the relevance of town halls.
Okay, are you saying either or are we taking them separately?
No, so the two questions. So the
Okay,
first one is, what is the importance of team? I know we've sat in rooms where when you talk about team bonding, it's like, why are we wasting money? Why? Just give them bonus, and the bonus is 10,000 naira, and I'm being luxurious sometimes. Because some people are not being paid salaries, and I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying importance of team bonding, and then the other part would be the relevance of town halls. And the reason I bring up the relevance of town hall is because we're talking about startups, and if we umbrella the entire conversation, we have to remember we're talking about startups, and that would mean that there is, as much as Trey just meant, and he just alluded to the fact that it depends on the kind of company that you are. If you're an open company, fine. If you're not an open company, everybody's hush hush. But I don't know how many departments gonna be in a whole startup, because to be honest, we're just like 15 in the company for beginners. So that's those 2 questions I want to talk on, then use that to round up. So yeah, okay. Whoever wants to take it up,
I'll do the team bonding part. So, and I like that we've mentioned that, with startups. So I find that a lot of people, think of team bonding and think of something really expensive. So I'll just say something that we've done at the People Practice. We have, we have a Netflix account for, all of us, and we use it. Initially, we claimed that we were watching documentaries and films that spoke about HR, but now we just use it to do whatever. And so one of the things that we've tied into, I can see Abraham laughing. So one of the things that we've tied into our TGIF, for instance, is that we get a film, we watch it, and we dissect it. Funds are sent, and we do it because we're still working remotely at the moment. And so we just discuss it and trash it while eating. And then obviously I then throw in the work factor and tell someone that they need to kind of write about it and relate it to HR in the end. But that's one of the ways we do it. And recently we went out to a private beach in Lagos, and that was to mark like the end of the first half of the year. We've already planned what we're doing for a retreat at the end of the year, because we're a small team, but I also wanted to get it in and I wanted to lock it in. And so we're able to book a resort, but then it's a resort where everyone's sharing, but we're excited about that. And that's how we do our team bonding. I find that team bonding doesn't have to be expensive. It can, as long as you're creative and as long as you're finding ways for everyone to bond. Last week's one was a team bonding session, even though we were just focusing on ourselves and just how we could understand ourselves and understand each other better. So I think team bonding is very important, especially as you work remotely. So as we're just a team of 5. And that's fine. But if you're already 15, 20, I guess that people are in sub teams. So what you can do is ensure that, team leads are taking time out. There's a tiny purse or wallet, attached to whatever they're doing. Are they meeting up? Are they going roller skating? Are they going whatever? Last year we went, what did we do? We went roller skating, and they accused me of trying to kill them.
Roller skating, yes.
They accused me of trying to kill them because everyone fell. But again, we're a small team. There's no one's embarrassed. Again, I have no shame. So if I'm having no shame, it kind of trickles down from me. So no one can really have that much shame. But it's just, how do you keep it fun? How do you keep it inexpensive? How do you keep everyone connected, especially in this remote time? So it's just thinking outside the box. And until Netflix tells me that, we literally have to be in the same home, we will continue with our Netflix account for everyone, So please don't go exposing me. So team bonding.
Okay, the second question, so that I can run off. Town hall, relevance of town hall. Abraham wants to talk about it, and I feel like you're mute, so I don't know, yeah, there you go.
Yes, so I think that I was going to talk about something that also ties to a question that I've seen here. Before working professionally, Jumia and all that, I was part of an organization called ISAC, and we spent a lot of time really investing in culture, really in leadership and all that. And so I've seen how culture and having a very good team environment helps you. And then flip over to Jumia, where we did all the things. We did town halls. And one key thing is that I think that doing these activities in themselves are meaningless if there isn't any direct spirit behind it. So if we work in a company where the company leadership doesn't care about employees, and we have town hall where we kind of discuss employee issues that are going to be swept under the rug, and we come back again next quarter to talk about it, becomes just an activity, including team bonding and all those things. They shouldn't be an activity. I think a crucial part of culture is the leadership sets the tone of what culture is, of what we want, how we want people to behave, what we value, what is important to us, right? So I think let's go out, let's have fun together, kind of like it helps, enhances the spirit that you laid down as a leader, that you continue to communicate to members. There's a question here about why people don't trust, ESOPs and RSUs. And I was thinking about what do you call the marshmallow challenge, where the kids about 4 years or 3 years, and they give you a marshmallow and they say, oh, if you wait 15 minutes and you don't eat it, when I come back, I'm going to give you another one. And then the kids usually eat it, immediately, or they just can't hold it. I was reading somewhere where someone says that what you don't talk about is that for the kids who eat the marshmallows, maybe the years and years of history of broken promises, where an elderly person says, oh, if you just wait, I'll give you another one, but they never give you, right? So we have scenarios where a lot of people who work in Nigeria have been promised a lot of things, and then we turn around, there are lots of broken promises, and so people start to interact with you as an employer, as a leader, with this relationship that they built with other leaders in their life, past employers, all that. So they don't trust you. So a large percentage of what we need to do is you need to have the integrity as a leader. You need to set the tone for your company. You need to have the awareness to know that these are issues that are happening and you need to address them with, being transparent, not just, as a show, just so we say, oh, we have a great culture. We have all those videos that show us doing all this fun thing, but there are underlying hygiene issues in the company that you're not really addressing. You're not having hard conversations with people. You're not holding everyone to the same standard of performance. You're not really creating an environment where people want to work and enjoy work. I think those are fundamentally important things than just let's tick a box of let's have a town hall every 3 months. Let's have this, let's have that. People sense this, right? When you work with someone that you don't trust, that you can't trust, I'm happy to work there to continue to collect my salary up until the time I find the next opportunity, right? So I just want to add that to, I think, the questions and the team bonding and the other things.
No, I think it still answers my question anyway, because again, it's usually everything is pretty much always going to be a sets in place. There's processes. For every single idea that started off with like, oh, I believe in it, and then it ends up becoming just like a slam dunk templates that everyone has to work with. So I just wanted to be able to discuss that with you guys. I don't know if we'd asked this, but someone said, how do you make team bonding effective for distributed team with just 1 or 2 people in different countries? Toe and Trey, who live in different countries. Explain.
So I would say try and reduce any physical team bondings where just two people are tuning
She
in.
just
or
said
dialing.
Netflix though. Netflix is a thing.
Yeah.
And you
So
can be
one thing
anywhere. So, yeah.
yes, one thing you can do is that you can encourage a few of the team bonding things to be online with people in different areas. And it doesn't have to be when they're in the office. It can be, you know, at times when they're at home, just so that the other two people don't feel left out. Yeah, I think that you should do that more. Okay, I know Automatic is a company, they have, everyone's remote, everyone works from different places, and they try and meet in a specific place once a year. And so they have like a large gathering once a year. So something you can do, if everyone is in, for example, Nigeria and a few people are in Rwanda, then maybe two people are in, one person is in Rwanda and one person in Kenya, you can try and organize for the people in Kenya and Rwanda to come into Nigeria at points, and then have something huge at that point for, you know, with the teams. So just don't exclude them by making it more physical and ask them to dial in. Everyone knows when you're like an add-on, you just know, because everyone's having fun and you're looking and saying, what's going on? What happened? What happened? What was the joke? Yeah, so try and make it more online when everyone's in different places as well.
Organization. Yeah, I would say there's two aspects of that. First is don't underestimate the power of playing games online. By playing games, I mean as us having activities online. So our team is all in the general Nairobi area for now, but our team is mostly remote. But we still have a lot of inside jokes and stuff already from just a lot of the games that we have played, whether those be some type of icebreaker type of games or asking questions that are designed to find out more about the person outside of their work life. And so even if you're not physically located, having those still shared experiences, whether they be fun or in terms of understanding other people on the team, can still really work wonders, even if people are not actually physically meeting. The second thing is just hearkening back to what I had mentioned previously about really having people, really having a commonly shared culture and commonly shared history of the company that is a form of bonding that is not actually in terms of activities, but in terms of a shared experience or a shared consciousness across the company. We do this all of the time in a non-business aspect. For example, there's no American on the planet today who was alive on July 4th, 1776, but Americans love celebrating July 4th in 2021, 2022, 2023. And so it can be the exact same for your company or your organization, beyond just having those online activities or shared activities. You can also do things that really celebrate the company, whether it's like the birthday of the company or some of those other things that I was mentioning previously about celebrating the organization and the progress that you've made, and helping that to bond the team, knowing that everybody is part of a shared story, a shared community, and a shared team.
Oh my goodness, you guys, this was supposed to be like what, less than like 2 hours. This is like an hour. This is like 2 hours and a half. I cannot believe it. Thank you so much. I cannot promise you that there would not be a 2.0. Try, I know you're there, just catering to other things. But
Yes, I am.
This has been so amazing, so amazing, because at the end of the day, I feel like it's just obviously it's beyond the conversation. It's pretty much the fact that there's so much that needs to be discussed and so much that has been here. Charles is the only person I've just been, he's been there from the beginning. We would think he was participatory from, like, he's one of our hosts. I feel like he probably is at this point, but no problem. But like, I'm so grateful and thankful. I know like the remaining founders that are here literally just like left this on so that they can have this recorded and listening to in the background anyway. But this has been way beyond my expectation, and you guys have been way beyond what I thought you guys would. Abraham told me he had to leave at 5:30. It's like 6:40, but here he is. Just saying that if it was not bad, he would have left a while ago. And Shirai has been talking about his kids, and I know fully well his entire phone, like he's been showing me his face the entire time, like maybe 10 minutes ago. So even Trey that was complaining about his internet and his everything is finding ways to like balance it. And Harriet has gonna come back, but still we're still here. You guys, thank you so much. We've seen Tom's son, we've met him now, he's now a family member. So that part. But I'm really appreciative of you guys doing this. And I cannot again tell you that this will not happen on a 2.0. I'm gonna take everyone. So I'm gonna reach out to you guys personally, so I can get your details, and so that if the founders want to have a one-on-one with you guys, I can ensure that that happens, because I really think that this is an ongoing conversation that never ends. And they really definitely want to get to know more, get to do more. Today's demo day for YC, so I reckon that that's why most of them have this missing. So that being said, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. And I hope at the end of the day that we can ensure that we're doing better in the ecosystem and we're seeing better results and numbers and less people that are stealing from us from the abroad. But okay. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you are. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you.
Hi,
Thank
Trey.
you.
Trey, let's
Bye-bye.
Trey talk. Okay, see, your face is always weird because I don't see your face.
Bye.
You know, I'm just hearing your voice. And hi, Charles, because today you're the one best participant, but apparently we're not doing that. But bye. All right.
Okay.